All right. Welcome back to the Totally Average Gamers podcast. As always, I am K Burns 30 here with AB Cincinnatus and I Frostbite. And it is a good day to talk Super Mario Brothers and all Super Mario related things. Happy 35th anniversary. I think we're a little late on the train on this one, but happy 35th anniversary to Super Mario Brothers.
Only almost a year.
Only almost a year. But Nintendo themselves didn't start celebrating until October. So by that measure, we're not that late. We'll get into some Super Mario stuff in a little bit, but we thought we'd talk and hang out for a little bit first. AB Cincinnati, what have you been playing recently?
I have been playing a lot of things. Hold on, I have a list.
It's got a list.
We've been doing this every other week, so I've actually started keeping track of this stuff. So I bought and played through much of the Mega Man Legacy collections. So I played through Mega Man 5, Mega Man 6, Mega Man 7, Mega Man 8, and The Adventures of Lolo, Mega Man X2, more Mario Super Picross, more Dragon Quest 7, Final Fantasy 7, and Earthbound. I've been playing everything.
Did you sleep?
Oh shit, that's what I forgot to do. And I guess I missed my opportunity to do this, but I have opinions on Mario games. There's
Let's see how many opinions
there are 44 games sitting in front of me, and I will probably move them behind me at some point during the stream. So if that happens, I'm sorry that I turned my back to you.
I'll forgive you. I mean, that's only a few things that you're playing. What about you, Frostbite?
Only a few.
What do you got going on?
I've been like kind of jumping around a lot with games lately. For some reason, playing a bunch of different Zelda games. I guess just been in that kind of mood. I don't know. I started out playing a bit of, got back into Breath of the Wild, and then I don't remember. Oh yeah, I think I saw like a random article or something about the Ocarina of Time online mods, and I was like, man, that sounds like a really good time. So I I got an emulator set up. I mean, I have the cartridge, but I obviously if you want to do the online thing, you need a emulator. So I was trying that out with some friends, which is pretty fun. Actually, it's a lot of fun. And then I also started playing a randomizer for Ocarina of Time
Gone
for
down
the
the
first
rabbit
time.
hole.
Oh man, I got
last week's race wasn't enough for you.
apparently not. I got like the worst seed ever in my first randomizer attempt though, because it was like I was using a tracker and I was getting down to like literally like one or two checks left with nothing else to do before I was able to actually get an item that would allow me to proceed. It was kind of ridiculous.
I've been
and
there.
then yeah, but other than that, I was also checking out some games on the Steam's been doing a like indie game demo festival thing.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I don't know if you guys have checked that out at all, but there's like I don't know how many. There's like at least 100, maybe a couple hundred demos of indie games that you can get right now, and there's some really cool stuff on there. One that I got like totally addicted to for a couple days is called Loop Hero, which is a game that completely defies description. Really, like I don't even know how to describe it to you, but it's really really fun. It's only like I don't know, 15-20 bucks or something, and it's coming out in a couple weeks. So I recommend everyone checks out Loop Hero. Yeah, that's mostly what I've been up to.
Keep busy, sure. Yeah.
I just realized I spent something like 15 hours over the weekend playing a round of Civ.
Those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those up.
No, that was a single game. I won in that 15 hours.
You're playing 6, right?
Yeah, Civ 6. I was playing as Hammurabi because the newest part of the New Frontiers Pass dropped.
I've never finished a game of Civ 6.
I play with my fiance, and so that's pretty good motivation for us to get through a game.
Fair enough.
Because we're
What
just
about
yelling at each other from across the room.
what has K Burns been playing?
Yeah, it's been a slow week for me. Been busy with some other things, but I'm still on the Final Fantasy train a little bit. Final Fantasy 7 remake and Final Fantasy 10. A small break from that, and yeah, I kind of just been digging through some of my older stuff and finding what to do. I also did a No Green Time randomizer this week. I didn't finish it because I found out that the iron boots were behind the 50 skull check, and I said no, that's not happening. So we didn't do that. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's like, Frostbite's talking about a bad seed. That's like really bad logic. That's like 3 hours of gameplay just to get a very crucial item, even in the best of circumstances. So definitely pulled back on that a little bit. I have been returning to some speed running. I've been practicing my Link to the Past speed running. I'm not ready to do it on any streams, but I finally learned the whole route. So we're getting
Nice.
Good job.
So we're practicing that. And I started playing Super Mario Odyssey again.
Really?
In no way inspired by this.
Oh, really? Just a coincidence?
Yeah, it was in no way inspired by this Super Mario Brothers 35. Let's dig into Super Mario. I was just sitting there a couple nights ago, and I'm like, I'm bored. I was going through my games. You know what? I want to play some Super Mario Odyssey. And, I'm only 100 moons in or so, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And
that's a tenth of the game.
Yeah, and it's only been 3.5 years, but it really holds up. I love that game. What a great game. We'll talk about it.
We will absolutely get to that game.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like I said, it's been a bit of a slow week. I gotta get back to it. Get some gaming. There have been some retro stuff I've been playing. Been doing that on my streams a little bit. Did get into Mischief Makers last week.
Shake.
Oh man, that's such a good game.
Yeah, I haven't played it in years. For anyone not familiar with Mischief Makers, an old N64 title. 2.5D platformy.
I hate that term.
2.5D.
Yeah,
but
I get it, but
it's funny because there are games where I look at them and I'm like, yeah, that is it's 2D, but it occasionally adds in like a foreground background element kind of thing, and that I get as 2.5D. But like so many games that get referred to this as that, it's like they've got pre-rendered sprites.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you that. Mischief Makers actually follows that 2.5D thing. I don't want to get too into this game. I still have to finish it, but I got pretty far. Yeah, what a game. That's the only way I could put it. What a game.
Is this your first time playing it?
First time in about 20 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, dating myself a little bit. I never finished it. I never owned it, but I played it.
Gotcha.
I almost done the 4th world, and my understanding there's only 5 worlds, so I'm actually pretty far in. So probably get back to this. Yeah, where we're at with that.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, but like I said, Mario Odyssey, and there's just a lot of Mario content out there right now. And tomorrow, Super Mario 3D World, I believe that's tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Reviews drop today.
Yep, the reviews are out. Super Mario 3D World, which I have it on Wii U, but I don't have Bowser's Fury. That's new. So yeah, rebuying it on Switch
because why not?
Nintendo just gets all my money. But 35 years of Mario. Where do you even start?
Probably at the beginning. But before we go back, let's talk about some stuff that's going on now. Because there has been some gaming news this week. So I think just something I wanted to point out, because we talked about it 2 weeks ago, was that Stadia, or Google rather, is shutting down Stadia's internal development teams, which we briefly touched on as a possibility of something that could happen with these various streaming platforms, and what would it mean for game preservation. In this case, it means nothing for game preservation because they hadn't actually made anything yet. But it's so interesting to see, like, that was maybe a week after we talked about it. So I promise not to talk about.
You know what?
I promise not to talk disparagingly about any technologies this week, so that we don't accidentally stop them from existing next week.
They must have. They must have been watching our podcast, man. That must be what happened.
Oh man,
they were like, "This guy's got some good points. We should maybe we should just shut this whole thing down."
What could be more average than Google shutting down a project that they're working on?
I think that's a well above average for them at this point.
Exactly. That's just it's just what they do.
In happier news though, E3 is coming back. E3 will be digital this year, of course, which is totally understandable. Honestly, I think it's going to work better digitally anyway. With we all watch it. I can't afford E3, so we're all watching it digitally anyway. But that's going to come back as a totally digital event in June. So excited that publishers and developers are going to finally be able to have that forum again, because it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that though? Like, as someone who wouldn't have been able to go anyway.
I'm happy that the event is happening. It
doesn't bother me at all.
It's a hype event. Like, whether or not you think that the show has a place, they do a really good job hyping up. And I like the large scale press conferences. That's why I was always disappointed when Sony pulled out a couple years ago, because I like the large scale stuff. Even if the announcements aren't great, I love seeing what they do. Maybe we'll finally get another Nintendo Direct. It's been a year since a proper Nintendo Direct. So
yes, I actually have a take on the E3 thing, which is that it's actually E3 going digital permanently would actually be a very positive thing. And the reason for that is because they already have competition in the form of Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest. And if we can get a bunch of these little digital conferences to pop up as kind of the replacement for E3, we end up with a much longer period of announcements rather than that 3-day excitement period. And more people will feel encouraged to talk about their games. So it seems like a win-win for consumers.
For the consumer, sure, but the argument against that from the E3 perspective, things not from us. I'm a consumer. I got no nothing to lose here, but there's a lot to E3 that's not investments. A lot.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of stuff that happens on the floor that we don't see. It might.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it might make sense that actually needs to have a return. But as we evolve, maybe not. I guess once we finally enter a post-pandemic world, maybe we'll find out.
That's something I hadn't really considered, actually. There's like almost two stages to an E3. There's like the press conferences, all the big trailers coming out. There's all that excitement, but then after that, you've got like 5 days or something of just like slowly trickling out all the little nitty gritty details, and like seeing people actually getting in and trying stuff, getting their hands on the new games and the new consoles and whatever. And that's like maybe not as flashy, but it's like just as important, I think. So that's actually a good point that I hadn't really considered.
And it's also an industry trade show, right? So there's networking opportunities and opportunities for companies to meet with each other that they may not have been presented with otherwise. And so, the ability for developers to meet with publishers in an informal setting, I think, is something that is lost from this.
I'll say it's always my dream to get E3. I would really hope that it's not canceled forever going forward, because I really want that dream to be realized.
It's been canceled before, right? There was E for All, and then it got canceled for good, and then it came back.
I'm saying going forward, I want to be able to live that dream and be on that floor and play the demos and stuff. That'd be a lot of fun.
Hey guys, we've got a podcast now. Maybe we're press.
We're press.
Next
totally
year they bring it back. Actually, I've heard that it's pretty easy to get a
press pass.
Yeah.
Get the Totally Average Gamers to E3.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
You never know. Yeah, I mean, there's been some other game announcements this week. Crash Bandicoot, it's about time, coming to next gen platforms and Nintendo Switch. So that's fun. It's about time.
Oh, that's literally the name of the game,
That's
isn't it?
literally the name.
I
It's
forgot that.
Crash 4. It's the second Crash 4.
but it's
What
about
was the first
time.
Crash for?
We don't talk about that one.
I actually like the other Crash 4, but that's not for tonight.
The only Crash game I ever played was the first one, and I didn't play that much of it. So
I have the Insane trilogy actually. Second one's the best.
I disagree, but that's fine.
But
We'll talk about Crash another time.
they're all very similar. And in general, they're all very similar. And apparently, the new one is a very much a return to form. Maybe I'll pick it up. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it's been kind of a slower news week.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
But rather than talk about that platforming mascot, let's talk about the one that we got 44 games out of my desk for.
I mean, you would think that that's too many games, and yet it's like a fraction.
Just
the number of
don't
games
make me
that Mario's
don't make me go don't make me go get all the Crash games. There's not enough to fill the desk.
Not enough.
I only have like 8 of them.
Like I say, guys, with Mario, like where do you start? Mario, 35 years of, even people that don't know gaming know Mario. That says something, right?
Yeah. He's a recognizable mascot, that's for sure.
Really is. I mean, I've been playing Mario since I think the first games I ever played were Mario. Probably Super Mario Land on Game Boy and Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo Entertainment System, and that's where we're talking 35 years here, right? It's been 35 years since Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
and
home console.
He's come a long way. He's come a long way, hasn't he, Frostbite?
He certainly has. Yeah, but before I jump into the the details, I want to hear if you guys have any cool little fun sort of memories or stories with Mario games or with Mario in general. Just to as a tipping off point, just here's a tiny little anecdote. I found out when I was an adult, my mom admitted that so we got a Nintendo and I think Christmas 1990 we got an NES and Super Mario, and not until years and years later my mom actually admitted to my sister and me that she used to stay up till 3 in the morning playing Mario after the kids had gone to sleep, and I just thought that was really funny. But I guess she didn't really get the hang of it because she didn't really play many games after that. But
didn't catch on.
Yeah.
I always remember, and like I said, I had the NES in my house, Game Boy. I think they were my mother's. She really had no interest, so my brother and I were really playing with them. But I remember 1996, N64 came out, and my brother got it for his birthday. And back then, and not crazy pandemic times, we used to have big family gatherings. And I have quite a large family, and everyone was over. My brother was the oldest, and any of us younger than 5 at the time. And we all get this new console hooked up. My dad hooks it up to the TV, and we pop in the only game that we got, which was Mario Kart 64. And
I remember this happening.
Yeah, and 5-year-olds who don't really understand how to play video games very well, trying to navigate the menus, ended up in somehow getting into the Grand Prix with Toad's Turnpike. And those who don't know 64, Toad's Turnpike is the level with other big trucks in it. And I think all of our parents were pretty horrified about how we might turn out as drivers, just driving into trucks over and over and over again for 2 hours, over and over and over again. That's one of my earliest Mario memories.
Wow. What about you, ABC? You got anything come to mind?
So I grew up with an NES and access to an SNES. And the NES was plugged into the worst TV in the house, because of course it was. And I've been playing video games since my hands could fit on a controller. So I pretty quickly figured out and mastered Super Mario Brothers 1. And it took me forever to figure out Super Mario Brothers 3. And I remember I left the system on for what must have been like 3 days
No
as my
saves.
yeah, no saves, as my dad and I worked our way through that game. And like we had tried plenty of times before. We'd suffered power outages, which killed our progress. We'd suffered all sorts of things that set us back. And I remember beating it one time and just being like, yeah, it was okay. Mario 1 was better. And like looking back
What?
on it
Come
now,
on.
looking back on it now, I was like, man, I was an idiot as like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
But also like I think the real Mario memory that sticks with me is when I was a kid. I remember we got to the special world in Super Mario World, and we thought like, oh, we're gonna beat this. It's gonna be the end of the game. And we got to the end of the Star World, or the not the Star World, the special world, and we unlocked that little Star World pad, and you're like, oh, what the hell is this? And you take the pad, and it takes you back to Yoshi's Island. Except now everything is autumn, and all the characters are wearing Mario masks, and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I did not know what was
Yeah.
going on when that happened.
And I remember being like so impressed that the game, or that the developers had like the idea to hide this there, but like looking back on it, I'm like, it does nothing. It's a cosmetic change, right? They change sprites. That's all it does. But at the time, it was like, wow, games are so
Oh
cool.
man, yeah, like
You
those
know,
were
like-
those were the kinds of like secrets. Like they used to put secrets like that in games, and it was always like so magical because there was no internet. It was like you'd hear about this. Oh, my friend told me that his cousin beat this level in Super Mario World, and when you do it a certain way, that like Princess Peach comes out and kisses Mario, or like weird stuff like that. And it's
Oh, yeah.
always like it's always just some like nebulous kind of thing that may or may not be true.
Yeah,
That's
didn't you
what
know
like
that? Didn't you know that Mew is hidden under the truck near the SSN?
Yeah,
it's
see?
it's funny because now I go, oh, did you know that you can if you plug enough controllers into the Super Nintendo, you can reprogram the game to play Pong? Because at Games Done Quick, they reprogrammed using TaskBot Super Mario World on the fly.
Using the like code injection techniques.
Yeah, using code injection.
Arbitrary code execution. Look it up, folks. It's insane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's like, did you know that this is hidden in the game? Yeah. Did you know that you could rewrite the game live while you're playing it?
I wonder if you can play Doom in Super Mario World.
Can it run Doom?
Probably. Here's the thing, though.
Um,
Why would you? You could just go buy Doom for the Super Nintendo.
That's not as fun. Come on.
It's true.
Also, is that like actually okay? We're not talking about Doom. We're not talking about
Can't go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, let's jump into some history, some analysis. I wanted to talk about I'm always really interested when I play games about how things are designed. I mean, like game design, I guess, not just like visual design, but actual game design, level design, mechanics. Like I always think about that stuff when I'm playing games, and so that's what I wanted to talk about was Mario's game design and Mario's mechanics. I mean, since the very beginning, and I'm talking about platforming
Yeah,
games here. So
that's why I'm putting all the non-platformers behind me.
So we're starting with Super Mario Bros. For NES, and we're going all the way to Odyssey here. But since the beginning, Mario can run, Mario can jump, and that's never changed. But there's a lot more to look at, really, when you look under the hood. So, yeah, let's jump into it. So, on the NES, you got Super Mario Bros. 1 and Lost Levels. I'm not going to talk about Super Mario 2 because it's really not a Mario game. They just reskinned it with Mario.
Well, hold on a second. It started its life in development as a Mario game, and then got shelved, and was brought back out later on to fit the Mario mold.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit the mold. Let's go back to Super Mario Bros. Let's start.
Yeah, all right. So, I mean, I'm hoping to shed some light on things that maybe people don't think about so much when playing these games. Like, all right, so in Super Mario Bros, the first one, everyone knows you can walk, you can run, you can jump, which is really par for the course with games like that. I mean, there had been many games where you could walk side to side and jump before that. That's not a new thing. Um, but what was interesting about it, um, even before we get into all the other cool stuff Mario can do in that game, um, there's a button that you hold to run faster, and that surprisingly gives you a whole new element of control over what's going on over the action. So um, Mario, you can start holding the button and he starts accelerating, and that acceleration is also important. Um it's not just like you're moving, you're not moving, it's on and off. Mario has a certain sort of like uh floatiness. I don't know the right word for it, but you start moving, he has to accelerate up to speed. You stop moving, he has to slow back down again.
He's got inertia.
Inertia, yeah, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. And he also, if you quickly move from one direction to the other, he does a little skid and turns around. So they're giving you a bit more control than you've got in other platforming games. And this is the kind of stuff that really sets Mario apart from its predecessors and even its contemporaries as a platforming game back in the day. Is just that low extra level of control. Um, and then let's look at his jump. He's all about the jump. I mean, he was originally called Jumpman, right? Um, some cool stuff about Mario's jump. It does a lot. He can. I mean, it's a platform. It basically spawned the platforming genre. So it's based on jumping onto platforms, jumping from this platform to that platform. It's not just about jumping over obstacles like it was in Donkey Kong, for example. Um, he can also jump onto enemies and flatten them or kill them or whatever you want to call it.
I always prefer squish.
Squish,
It
squishing
seems
them.
cuter that way.
Which this is the first game, Super Mario Bros. For NES is the first game where you could actually do that. I'm pretty sure. I looked like in the arcade Super Mario games, which were just called. Sorry, they're not Super Mario, just Mario
Just
Bros.
Mario Brothers.
You couldn't jump on enemies, even the Koopas, if they were even called Koopas. I'm not sure. If you jumped on an enemy,
They're
you die.
called fuck. What are they called? They're Noko, I think.
Okay, there
Or
you go.
sidestepper. No, sidesteppers are the flies.
Um, but yeah, so his jump now has gained more utility. He can jump on enemies to kill them. In addition to jumping over obstacles, jumping over holes, he can also use his jump to hit blocks, which is not new. That was in the arcade game, but he can. But what is new is that he can break blocks as well. So they're giving you all kinds of cool stuff you can do with just that one jump button. Um, uh, he can also jump off of springboards, which appear later on in that game, and you can also bounce off of enemies. So not only can you jump on them, flatten the enemy, but if you press jump at the right time, you can bounce off of them and gain extra height, which is creates some really fun opportunities where they put enemies in the right spot where you can bounce, 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 bounce. Um,
And you keep your inertia. You keep your velocity.
yeah, that's right, exactly. Speaking of velocity, now this is huge. This is a really underappreciated thing. Mario's jump has allows you to influence his velocity, influence that inertia while you're in the air. And that this is really, again, comes down to giving you control over the character, and it's something that, to my knowledge, no game before that had done as far as a character that runs and jumps. Um, yeah, so that's all the cool stuff you can do with Mario's with two buttons and a D-pad in Super Mario Bros. In addition to that, like he can climb up vines, he can swim, but we know nobody wants to talk about the water levels.
What can't he do?
he can and you can crouch, and those are basically all the actions, the sort of core actions of a Mario game. So you got running, jumping, climbing, swimming, crouching. Um, so in addition to that, that's all the stuff you need to know to play a Mario game. There's also every Mario game has some sort of more advanced stuff, a level of mastery, you could call it, that is not necessarily required to beat the game. Like this, for example, in the first Mario game, you could do the little crouch slide where you run and then you hold down and you could slide under an obstacle. Um, and that's like a purely optional technique that you don't need. But if you want to master it, cool. It lets you play a little faster, have a little more fun. Even the like bouncing off of enemies. In fact, um, even running itself.
I was going to say, how many people have you ever introduced a platformer to where
Yeah,
you were like,
Just
why
hold
aren't you why
B.
aren't you just holding the run button? Just don't let go of it. Start with
yeah,
your thumb on the run button. Rock your thumb back to the jump button. Don't worry about letting go of that.
yeah.
Because
So
people who don't know platformers are just like, I'll run when I need to run, not I should always be moving as quickly as possible.
yeah. Now, what's interesting about that is, I believe the first level in every Mario platformer, 2D Mario platformer, can be beaten without the run button.
Yes.
Yep, that's
Um,
correct.
so, in a way, they're kind of easing you into it, and this is where the Mario's Mario's moves, Mario's mechanics really tie into the game design and the experience that they're trying to give you, right? So everyone knows, everyone's already probably seen or heard like how the first level is a tutorial, like the 1-1 level. It's been broken down so many times. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really expertly crafted the way they introduce things to you, and like, uh, oh, here's an enemy. If you run into him, you die. Now okay, better jump over him. And then they introduce these blocks in a way that you might accidentally jump into one, so that you now have learned, like, oh, I can break blocks, or sometimes coins come out of them. Now there's a pipe in my way. I have to figure out how to jump over it. Like all that stuff. It's just so well crafted. But again, the first level um, does not require you to run at all. You can beat it pretty easily without using the run button, and that's I think intentional, and I think it's a way that the developers are trying to we're trying to help you ease into the game. And I mean, it's really probably just Miyamoto himself. His games didn't have that many people on the team back in those days, but yeah, I mean, other than that, like basically the design of the first Mario Bros. Game, it's all based on those simple mechanics: running and jumping, controlling Mario. They put coins in your path to help, make it more fun, and often to kind of lead you through the level. So they'll be like, oh, here's a little arc of coins where I jump over a hole or something like that, and um, mastering stuff like running, bouncing off of enemies, doing the crouch slide. That the stuff's all optional. Um, it's just basically for fun, or maybe beat the
Enhances
game
your gameplay.
faster, get more points, and that is like a really core thing in all of the games going forward. Is like um, the games are easy to learn, and in fact, if you've played the first Mario Bros, you know enough that you could play and beat every single Mario platformer, probably. They all build off of those same mechanics.
Well, certainly
Um,
the 2D games.
yeah, the 2D ones, exactly. Uh, yeah, you could take the mechanics you learned from the first Mario game, and you could beat every 2D Mario game with those skills. Everything else on top of that is just gravy. It's just like, hey, here's some cool extra stuff you can do for fun. You don't need to, but it feels awesome when you pull it off just right. So moving on from there, like I said, uh, I'm gonna skip over Mario 2 because really like doesn't introduce that much stuff that carried on for the series, and it was in Japan released as a completely different game. We did get lost levels which had a different, which was not created by Shigeru Miyamoto.
No, it was Lost Levels was.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, Lost Levels is Miyamoto.
Why did I think that it wasn't? I don't know.
Because Mario 2 North America was not.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, Lost Levels didn't really introduce any new mechanics. I didn't mention the power ups. I'm not going to talk about those too much, but the core power ups were also introduced in the first Mario game, which are the mushroom, of course, which makes you bigger, gives you an extra hit, the fire flower, and the star. Those are pretty much mainstays through almost every Mario game, with some notable exceptions. But yeah, the Lost Levels didn't introduce that much new stuff. It's basically just a harder ROM hack
Don't forget
of
poison
the first game,
mushrooms.
except for the poison mushrooms, which are really weird and really break from everything that every other Mario game does. It's like here you've played this entire game. We've taught you that mushrooms are good, and these things that come out of the blocks, you want to collect them. And now suddenly they're like, first level. Oh, what's this new purple mushroom? Let me get that. Oh, what? I just died. Like now we're gonna punish you for
See, and
for
you're
hitting
and you're
blocks.
talking about the Mario All Stars version, which recolored
Oh
the
yeah,
poison
maybe.
mushrooms. The original NES poison mushrooms had a single line on their faces denoting that they were evil
Oh
compared to
my god.
It was
like
basically
they were the same color on top. They just had like an extra line next to one of the eyes, and you had to notice that and be like, poison mushroom.
it's
Yeah.
basically them being like, "Hey, collect stuff. It's great. Oh, now we're gonna kill you. Deal with it."
Mario 2, the Japanese Mario 2, is a punishing game that, much like its predecessor, teaches you up front the new rules of play. Unfortunately, the new rules of play aren't fun to play by.
New rules of play
For
suck. Yeah.
me,
Yeah, with backwards warp zones and levels that require you to spend most of the stage off screen, and yeah, it's there's a reason that game did not come in its original format to North America.
Yeah. So moving on to Super Mario Bros. 3, which is one of my all-time favorite Mario games. Um, they just made everything better, crisper. Everything looks better. Mario feels lighter, faster. The movement just feels tighter. Like it's such a great game. They added a few extra mechanics, which again, it all boils down to extra like mastery. Like Mario can now pick up and carry and throw stuff, um, which I don't think is ever actually required to beat the game.
It is.
Is
It
it?
is. Yeah. There's the level where you have to fly the shell up to the higher level to exit, and
yeah, it's
unfortunately that
world
level is required.
6.
Ah,
I
okay.
think it's world
So there you
6.
go.
Yep. It's in the
Um,
sky.
but it's like it's pretty light though. Like there's uh not too many times where they require you to do it. However, they do kind of try to teach it to you or introduce it in the very first level.
Right.
They put a block on the ground, which is something you've uh don't see unless there's like a way to hit it, right? So you basically are forced to figure out that like, oh, I can pick up this turtle shell and throw it at the block. Um, sorry, I'm losing my place here on my notes. Oh yeah, another thing, the cool thing that they added is you can slide down hills, which makes a comeback in several Mario
Slopes.
games. Um, and they place enemies in a way that you might accidentally realize that you can kill them by sliding down a hill, which is again just to teach you stuff without you even realizing it. Also, sliding down hills is just fun. So um,
That doesn't just apply to Mario games. That's like a real life.
yeah, no, exactly, yeah.
No, I'm old now. I don't feel that way anymore.
This game also Mario 3 introduced some new power-ups, but they're what I as I was jotting things down, kind of started referring to them as novel power-ups, because they're mostly unique to this game, and they only appear in like a couple levels, and that's
I,
the
I was hoping you were going to touch on this. This is the start of a trend that is not consistent through later games, where power-ups in Mario games are either doled out situationally or they are universally a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Like the frog suit in Mario 3 is great for those 4 water levels
Exactly.
and terrible to have any other time.
What's also really cool about the frog though is that it almost feels like an acknowledgement that swimming levels suck. And they're like, okay, here, just now you can just do whatever you want in the
Only
water.
game that really, really, threw you a bone became water level.
Yeah.
Yep.
They also this was the but yeah, so you've got these like again to call them novel power-ups. Like AVC mentioned, they're only in a few levels, so they're not like uh the core power-ups, the mushroom, the flower, the star, and in this game, the is it a feather or a
The super
leaf?
leaf.
It's a leaf.
A
It's
leaf?
super leaf.
I was never sure if it was a feather or a leaf, but
Yeah, no, the feathers in Mario World.
yeah. So those 4 are like the core power-ups of the game, and then the other ones just kind of like are sprinkled throughout. But it's always like it's kind of cool because you get to one level and you're like oh shit, there's a boot in this level. Yes, I love the boot. I think the reason that those are so fun is because you don't get them very often.
Yeah, the boot actually is only in one level in the original Super Mario Brothers. I mean,
Yep.
Is it
Mario
really
Makers
only one?
obviously brought it
I
back.
thought
but
it was in a couple.
So
One
it's in exactly one level. And you know what the funny part is? It was such an oversight by the team that it didn't even get localized. Like the name didn't get localized. Its name in Japanese in North America is Karibo's shoe. Well, Karibo is the Japanese name for Goomba.
Ah, I
So
didn't know that.
like they didn't even bother changing the name to be like Goomba's shoe. Because it's such an oversight of the team. They're like, oh, it's in one level. Who cares?
Yeah. But everyone remembers that boot.
yeah,
Everyone remembers,
it's that good.
and it has it has legacy. It made it into the Mario Maker series.
Yeah. They also had the hammer throwing power up, which is again only in like what one or 2 levels or something, right?
Yeah, it's obtainable in the Ice World.
But again, I didn't want to spend too much time on power ups. But a major mainstay that this game introduced is flight. This is the first game where Mario can fly, and that makes a return in several Mario games. And it's another thing though that I'm not sure if I'm mistaken here, but I don't think you ever have to fly to beat the game. Like like a really sustained flight. Like
There's the one instance that we already talked about where you
with
also have
the
to
flying
carry
with
carry
yeah.
the shell. Yeah.
But they're really like a lot of these mechanics, it's like they're mostly just there for you to have fun and explore and all that stuff. Like there's maybe like one case here or there where they're actually required, but um it's like you can fly in almost any level of that game, but it's usually just for fun. Which is really cool. And like they reward you it does take. I remember when I was a kid, like it took a little bit of practice for me to get the hang of it. But they reward you with like cool little secrets, and you find like a room full of coins, or you get extra lives, or like cool stuff like that. Um, but
And I
yeah,
mean
so
that's done intentionally because they had to, or they didn't have to. They intentionally limited the flight capabilities in Mario 3 because they weren't sure how to make it work without effectively throwing away the rest of their level design.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which I don't know how much you know about the development of Mario 3, but there's this whole period of time where they wanted to add the flight that effectively ended up in Super Mario World. And they realized that the players that they had testing the game were just like, oh, we can fly, and they would just fly over all the
yeah. Just
obstacles
fly
and
through
skip
the
the
entire
levels.
level. Yeah,
And so they're like, okay, we have to limit flight, and because they limited flight, then they had to give you reason to like go to specific areas while flying. So the whole thing kind of cycles in on itself.
yeah,
but
exactly. That's it.
very
And
intentional design.
that's the kind of stuff that I like. It's just the mechanics inform the design informs the mechanics, and it's just this harmony of
Yeah.
mechanics and design. Um, So moving on to the Super Nintendo, another one of my favorites, favorite Mario games is Super Mario World. This game just again kind of takes everything that Mario can do and just tightens it up and makes it feel really good. Um, they added they added a couple things in this game. They added the spin jump, um, which is kind of a weird one. Like it's again, I'm pretty confident this this time. You correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you. I think you can get through the whole game without doing a single spin jump.
You can get through the game, but Super Mario World has a lot more paths in the
Yes.
game, and a lot more in exits and secrets and
Yeah.
things like that. So yes, you can get through the game, but it does make it a lot more difficult. For instance, you can't get out of Yoshi unless you spin jump. Now, do you
Right.
have to get out of
Well,
Yoshi?
I mean,
Not
technically, you're
necessarily,
not.
but
You're not really doing a spin jump.
It's the
You
same button press though.
It's the same button, but it's not actually
So,
a spin jump.
just kind of while we're on that, I think you said you don't need to ever use spin jump, and I think that that's worth noting because they placed it on the A button, which on the Super Nintendo controller is the furthest away from the run button.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be a more deliberate, intentional, not necessarily done while running kind of
Yeah,
input.
exactly.
And because of where it's placed, a lot of players who are looking for that high speed platforming action may not be so inclined to be like, oh, I need to spin jump here because it
Mm.
slows down the pace of everything.
but incidentally, back trend of the game almost teaching you how to play it, it's the A button which has always been that traditional jump. So I
Yeah.
know this because
So
I
you might be
remember
tempted.
I actually remember
Just
this playing Super Mario World as a kid. And it was the jump I thought was the main jump because it was on the A button.
Yeah.
And I had played Super Mario Brothers, so it get kind of both worlds.
Now,
That's
maybe this is
interesting.
a thought that really only applies to North Americans, which is because of the controller design. There was something there right away to tell us like this is where your thumb goes because the X and Y buttons are concave, right? Whereas the Super Famicom and the Japanese or in the European Super Nintendo controllers have only convex buttons. So there's no like natural resting place for your thumb. Whereas I think a lot of us probably looked at it and were like, "Oh, my thumb fits comfortably in the Y button, and that happens to be the run button. This is just like how the NES controller is set up."
Hmm.
Um,
I don't know that
wh-
I've ever consciously thought about that, but that's an
so
interesting
like, I mean,
point.
I've got my 8-bit pad in front of me, and
Yeah.
like because the A and the B buttons were present on the NES controller, if I tried to hold it similarly to how I did back on that platform, it's a very noticeable difference to have your thumb in the concave button versus between two convex buttons. So I do wonder how much of that was intentional when they designed the North American controller to be like, you know what, this thing is going to be sold by Super Mario World, and we know it's been out for however long it had been out at that point in Japan. Let's make this controller the perfect controller for Super Mario World and for how people already play Mario.
Yeah. Can you show me that controller? Hold it up to the camera for a second.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna have to-
Give it a second.
Okay, yeah. So the 8-bit
So-
though doesn't have the gray outlines on the buttons, if you know what I mean. There's like
no, it doesn't.
the little
it-
blue
it
Seems
things.
I turned mine on.
8-bit
Yeah,
has had some issues with trying to copy that controller. There's been some legal issues.
Yeah.
And they've had to put it further away, just so a nice little FYI. That's what
Gi-
the newer
gi-
model looks like.
Yeah.
And
give me a second.
it's even less Nintendo like because
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk some more about Super Mario World. Yeah, those are some interesting points about the buttons. Like you might be tempted to push A first, and then you'd be like, "Oh, that's the jump. That's interesting. Well, I guess B is run," and then you press B, and then you're like, "Oh, actually, that's the normal jump." So
let's try
kind
the
of
other
maybe
buttons.
I wonder if that's intentional that they want you to kind of figure that out. Um, But yeah, I mean, in addition to that, I think they added some kind of one-off mechanics in Super Mario World that only occur in a few levels, like the balloons and stuff like that. You can climb on grates. You can carry even more stuff now, like keys, which open up potential for all kinds of puzzles and stuff. And this game was really full of puzzle levels,
Oh
more
yeah.
so than the previous ones. And they did a lot of that. It's just like packed with secrets, like secret exits, and um, you can go all over the map and beat it in so many different ways. And that's something that I really loved about it as a kid. Is just like, just you felt like you could. There was like an endless amount of stuff to figure out in that game.
It almost
sorry to interrupt, guys, but I just went and grabbed my Super Nintendo and Super Famicom controllers, and yeah, it's much more obvious, I think, um, on the original ones where I don't know if you were saying this, Cabrons, that they kind of pair the X and the Y and the A and the B in that gray circle,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah, I wonder what the purpose
they
of
look
that
like
was.
two sets of different action buttons, which may be less apparent on the Super Famicom controller, which has 4 different colors for the buttons. But again, that one set, the North American ones, had the concave and convex sets of buttons, while the Japanese ones were just all the same convex buttons. So it's just like, here's 4
Yeah.
action buttons.
I wonder why.
I have no idea.
Topic for
Anyway, where was I? Okay, so also they bring back the flight for Super Mario World. Like you were saying, it's you can fly a lot farther in this one, and because of that, it feels like they designed things. Uh, Either they designed things with flight in mind, either because they wanted you to fly and you would go up there and you would find all this cool stuff hidden in the clouds or whatever. And sometimes they didn't want you to fly, so they would just put like a nice vertical wall in your way. um, but yeah, I mean, and also they made it a little bit harder. So it was like again bringing back that whole mastery thing. So if you really want to fly through the whole level, you got to master that timing of the whole like the little bouncy thing.
Yeah, took me years to
Um,
master that.
yeah. Uh, they also, of course, introduced everyone's favorite green dinosaur, Yoshi, in this game. I'm not going to talk too much about Yoshi because I feel like Yoshi's his own character and has his own games and his own mechanics.
Oh shit! Do I need to put these away then? I'll put all the Yoshi games away.
I would say I agree with that. Actually, Yoshi spawned his own
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah, exactly. He started as like, oh, this cool new stuff Mario can do, but he really became his own thing. Like, all of Yoshi's actions in that game. Well, he really only has like a couple things he does, but yeah, that's all Yoshi stuff. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. Um,
Just a thought about the level design with the cape. That Mario 3, I mentioned before, the flight and the level design very much influence each other, and there's a lot more levels in Mario Brothers 3 that actively dissuade you from trying to fly. A lot more systems of caves that have tight ceilings, or no room for you to run to build up the speed necessary to fly. Whereas Super Mario World returns to kind of the style of level design that the original Super Mario Brothers had, in that it was a lot of these flat linear paths that you could easily gain speed on, you could easily fly over if you wanted to, and the game encouraged it, right?
Yeah.
So in giving you those types of levels, it was like the developers are saying, you can fly
Go
over the entire
fly.
thing. You're gonna miss the secrets, but you can do it. And that's why
Yeah.
that's why almost all of the hidden secrets in Super Mario World are hidden at ground level.
That's an interesting point that I didn't think of. Yeah, like maybe because they hid so many secrets, maybe that's why they were finally comfortable to just let you fly over the level, because they were like, sure, go ahead. You're gonna beat it, but you're gonna miss all this cool stuff.
It's
And
also not as
because you can revisit levels for the first time, um, it wasn't as big of a deal.
it's also not as easy, right? In Super Mario Bros. 3, once you have the speed, you tap the button, fly. In Super Mario World,
Yeah.
we already discussed, you have to carefully get that, mechanic down. kind of thing.
Super
That's
Mario
exactly
World
how it
also,
goes.
Super Mario World also has a dedicated level teaching you how to use the cape in all sorts of different ways.
Yep.
In Donut Plains 1, there are a few different places that you can get the cape. You can get it right at the start from the Super Koopas who fly by, and they kind of teach you that, hey, this thing lets you fly. But there's a set of pipes that you can go through at one point, and when you do, it has these pipes, large pipes, surrounded by coins with triangle blocks that you can run up
Oh
at the
yeah,
base
the
of each of them.
triangle blocks.
And the game is kind of like, hey, you can get all of the coins if you really master flight. Here's a great opportunity for you to fly back and forth and learn how to fly. And it doesn't have coins that guide you up into the flight, but it does have like rows upon rows of suspended coins that you can collect if you figure out how flight works. And you can re-enter that particular pipe again and again and again by going back, and every time it respawns the coins.
Yeah, and that's another kind of thing that they do, that Nintendo does very well in general, but especially in Mario games, is whenever they want to teach you something new or give you an opportunity to learn something new, they always give it to you in a really safe environment first, where you can experiment and you can figure it out, and then they'll start ramping up the challenge. Um, but we got to move on to Super Mario 64.
One of my all-time favorites. I know it hasn't aged well in some respects, but I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there, man. This is one of my favorites as well. And damn, does this change everything? I mean, I don't know. Like when this game came out, it was like it blew my childhood mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've got this completely 3D environment. You don't even use the D-pad anymore. You got this little thumbstick. Like it was a whole new world. Because it didn't really recognize any of this at the time, being just a dumb little kid, but because of the change to 3D, it required them to make a lot of adjustments to the things that Mario does. So first of all, you've got analog control over your movement. So they don't need a run button anymore, because if you want to walk, you press a little bit. If you want to run, you press it a lot. Simple as that.
Super Mario 64 DS is in chat.
Hey, we're not here yet. We're getting here, but we're not here yet.
Does that game have a run button?
It makes you
remember.
hold the button around.
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
Don't worry.
They also they introduce, Mario's all about the jump, so they give you like lots of new ways that you can jump and jump higher and jump farther. One of my personal favorites, the long jump. More to say on that later, but the long jump is, I think, I like to examine. I've been trying to examine with each game which mechanics they require you to learn or really want you to learn, and which ones are kind of just like an extra level of mastery, extra level of fun. The long jump is one that you have to learn. You will be, I don't know if it's even possible, but you'll definitely be hard pressed to finish the game without the long jump.
There are definitely stars where you can't do it without it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mario has all sorts of different techniques in that game, and I would say that the long jump is probably one of two of them that is required.
Yeah.
Ground pound.
The ground pound.
Okay, sorry, three of them. I was going to say wall jump.
Is the wall jump required? I mean, it's required maybe for certain things, but I don't know if it's required just to complete the game.
There are stars that need the wall jump, but if you're talking about just beating the game,
then no. The ground pound is required, though.
Yes. And the ground pound, I think Mario learned it from Yoshi, obviously, because Yoshi did it first. And actually,
Yoshi did do it first.
Bowser did it before that.
Oh,
in Mario 3.
That's also true.
Yeah.
In Super Mario 3, Super Mario Bros. 3. But yeah, so we got the long jump, you got the double and triple jump, you got the wall jump, you got the backflip. The sideways somersault where you run one direction and then turn around and jump the other direction. All kinds of cool things, and they're mostly like just for fun and or for getting around faster, maybe reaching some extra secrets. Um, Also, Mario can now it's probably like it's easy to overlook this stuff, but this is the first time you could jump up, and if you didn't quite reach a platform, you could grab it and climb up, or no, wait, sorry, was it only if you fell off a platform, he would grab it?
No, you can grab it from below.
Yeah, you can jump and
You
grab.
can grab it from below. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Um, which is like which was a brand new thing, and I think that the reason they added that is because in this 3D environment, you're looking at a 2D screen. You're looking at a 3D environment on a 2D screen. It can be really hard to judge how far away something is. So they give you that little bit of room for error by letting you grab on if you just missed it.
It's funny that the developers had the foresight to put that in there, but they also gave Mario a punch and a kick.
Yeah, the punch and the kick.
Like you're gonna have depth perception problems. Here, go punch enemies.
Yeah, punching enemies can be pretty difficult, and actually, so can jumping on enemies, which is funny because that was originally what Mario was all about. Like that was his thing, right? You jump on enemies. Jumping on enemies can be actually pretty tricky, and so Mario 64 has like way fewer enemies than the 2D entries before it. Um, and I think that's also part of the reason that they added the ground pound. The ground pound is easy to aim because you have Mario's shadow on the ground as a guide. So you wait till your shadow is over top of an enemy or a block or whatever, a platform even, and you do your ground pound midair and you're safe. You're good to go. I think that's pretty much why they gave him the ground pound. Um, you might also notice that the game is seriously lacking in blocks for you to jump up and hit, which again was like a huge mainstay of the 2D games, and that's the same reason. In fact, uh, Miyamoto has actually stated that that was an intent. They intentionally took out the blocks because they found that without the depth perception, it was harder
Yeah.
to hit them. Yeah, I mean, we've got more novel power-ups in Mario 64 with the metal cap, invisible cap, and the flight cap. For the third time in a row, we've got flight mechanics. Um,
And here they control like ass.
yeah, they kind of do.
And that's not the fault of the developers. That's just a limitation of the time. 3D flight was then and is now still something that's hard to convey with a single analog stick, and especially in a complete 3D space. And they did what they effectively tried to implement what they had in Super Mario World with the knowing when to pull up the stick at the last second to get that little gust back up into the air.
That's right. Yeah.
You could argue whether or not it was effective. I think the fact that that it comes up so infrequently compared to the cape or the raccoon
Mhm.
tail should speak to how they felt necessarily about how that controlled. They're like, oh, this is a neat little thing. People are going to like it. People are going to like the ability to fly around in 3D. But at the end of the day,
You don't want to do it all the time.
well, I was going to say at the end of the day, swimming in 3D actually feels like you've got more control than flight does, and that I
Yeah.
think is that's really a first for me for
Yes,
for Mario.
exactly. That was
Uh,
something I realized just recently replaying it on the 3D All Stars collection. I was like, swimming's actually kind of good in this game.
It's okay.
It's not
bad.
perfect. It's not
Yeah.
perfect. It's just it's comfortable. You
Yeah.
you understand that if you point in a certain direction, you go in that direction, and that's how much of Mario 64 works. And
Yeah.
really, the only exception to that is if you are using the wing cap.
Yeah. Yeah, flying was definitely a little bit janky.
I always thought it was interesting in Super Mario 64 that it's the first Mario. Yeah, you have power ups, but it also did away with traditional ones. No mushrooms, power mushrooms.
Yeah,
no
that's
fire
right.
flower.
No fire flower for the first time.
So you didn't play Mario 64 DS, but
I did, but I forgot it.
Okay, because I was going to say the fire flower sort of makes its return in 64 DS because it's Yoshi's power flower ability is fireballs.
Correct. But we're also now almost a decade in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're talking
I figured out.
1996.
We'll get back to that game eventually. We'll talk remakes and whatever.
It makes
at some point.
sense. It makes sense that they would remove the fire flower in the 3D environment because it would be really hard. Like, forget about trying to jump on an enemy in 3D space. Trying to throw a fireball at an enemy in 3D space, like,
And I would say that Nintendo eventually did encounter that problem, but we're skipping ahead here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Let's jump back to 64.
We're gonna speed it up a little bit now in the history of the platforming mechanics. At this point, like most of it's there. This is the basis for pretty much all of Mario's platforming actions now. But um, after that, we had Sunshine. Honestly, not a whole lot to say about it. Like, to be fair, the movement in Sunshine versus 64 was really tightened up. Like, it feels really good to just run and jump around with Mario. But they didn't really add that much because this game was really all about the gimmick. It was all about Flood, and that doesn't make it come back at all in any other Mario games. So I don't have that much to say about it really. But yeah, as I said, the movement feels really tight. They did add, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first time where you could slide down a wall in Sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario 64, you kind of hang on it.
The slide is like the wall cling.
Yeah,
is there. The spin jump makes its first appearance or like the 3D spin jump makes its first appearance in Sunshine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the spin jump.
The dive is a very prominently used move in Sunshine.
Yeah, but the dive was introduced in 64.
The dive was introduced in 64, but wasn't really a useful mechanic.
Yeah.
Whereas it is the best way to move quickly in Sunshine.
That's right.
Spray a little bit of water in front of you and dive into it, and it's like you're on a slip and slide for as long as you hold forward.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, go on.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, so like that, running, jumping around in that game feels great. And period. I'm not going to say any more about Sunshine.
Oh, but I was just going to say that the one thing that two things I would say about Sunshine is Flood doesn't feel like an extension of Mario's abilities.
Yeah.
And Flood's power-ups are once again what you refer to as novel power-ups.
Yeah.
Right? The rocket nozzle and turbo nozzle are completely situational, and if you have them, unfortunately they replace your hover nozzle, which in turn has already replaced your long jump. So
I was just waiting to say that. I hate that they removed the long jump.
Yep.
Because the long jump is like my favorite thing in the 3D Mario games. But yeah.
There's a great analysis video on YouTube by Matthew Matosis about the Mario series, and when he talks about Sunshine, he says, I get why they remove it, because something you'll notice about the platforms in Sunshine is they're all really far apart. They're all far apart because you already have the natural ability to move quickly or great distances with relative ease because of Flood. And if you added in the long jump, it unfortunately means that you could probably traverse, half of an entire world in Sunshine easily by just, doing a long jump off of something and then hovering for the rest of that with the momentum that you already have. And so it makes sense that they removed it. Unfortunately, it was the most useful ability or one of the most useful abilities in 64. So any returning players felt like they had been handicapped in some way.
Yeah, and not only is it useful, but it's fun. Like, I'm sorry, but long jumping is way more fun than hovering with Flood.
Oh,
like,
you don't have to apologize for that. That's a
and unfortunately, Flood also, the hover for Flood also changes your camera. So there's elements of control there that also get messed around with. Something we haven't really talked about is that Mario 64 introduced camera controls,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And camera controls are almost as important in 64 as the movement of Mario himself, because you might be
because
able
they're
to
intrinsically
manipulate the
linked.
camera to access an area of a map by doing a weird, like, a long jump and holding backward and skipping an area. Or but
Mhm.
in Sunshine, the move that gives you the greatest distance also shifts your camera angle, so whatever you had done to set up your jump is now reset. um,
Yeah,
and that's kind of a core part of movement
yeah,
in that
and it,
game.
it just, like, gets rid of any speed that you had built up as well.
Yes.
That's what I really don't like about it. Um, but yeah, I'll let you guys talk more about Galaxy later. Or sorry, not Galaxy, Sunshine, if you want to. But I want to try and power through the rest of these games. So we got Galaxy and Galaxy Two. Great games. Didn't do too much new there. It's more about these games are more about, again, just kind of like tightening everything up. Um, the spin jump is back. You can do the little shake shake to spin. Lots of novel power ups in these ones.
Including the fire flower.
Yeah,
And Ice
that's
Flower.
right.
But specifically, talking about the fire flower, it becomes very apparent very quickly. Even if you weren't dealing with motion controls to activate it, the fire flower is inaccurate within that 3D space. You don't know how it's going to react to slopes. You don't know how it's going to react uh, to different surfaces or the gravity of a planet. Um, so you throw a fireball and you're like, I just need to hit the torch that's 5 feet in front of me, and you can't do it necessarily. So, and they're timed power ups too, which is a very odd thing for something that's such a staple as the fire flower. Um,
Yeah.
so they get minimal use. The ice flower, I think, actually fares better than the fire flower does.
What's cool about what's cool about the Galaxy games though is that, like, they really like, other than the power ups, which are again, like, the novel power ups, because they're different in every game pretty much. They hardly bring any of them back, which is fine. Like, that's what makes those games unique. But what's cool about it is they really played with the core of a 3D Mario game, which is the platforming. Like, the platforming, like, just running and jumping, same as always, but they played around with it by adding the whole, like, gravity thing. Um, and I think what makes those games really good is that they are mostly just focusing on the platforming stuff, which is, in my opinion, what makes Mario games fun. That's like what you do. That's what you play for, I think. Um,
They also, in terms of level design, take a step back towards the linearity of the old 2D games.
yeah,
In that
that's right. They're not
there's
as
always
like
there's
big
always a
open.
single endpoint,
Mhm.
and the platforms are laid out, and that you can once again, find the quickest route to get there and just go for it. Hold your run button and go for it.
There are also segments of the Galaxy games in which you enter almost at 2.5 kind of space, where you're not moving in the direction, only moving back and forth.
Yeah, that's right. And
Yep.
that's something that they bring back in future 3D games as well. And I think that's really cool because they're like almost giving you a little taste of like 2D Mario in those sections, and it works really well when they do it right. Um, yeah, so after that we've got back to the glorious return to 2D Mario, new Super Mario Bros
Not
on
not
DS.
Mario 64 DS.
We'll come to remakes in a bit. There's Super Mario Bros.
Okay, fine. There's New
uh,
Super Mario Brothers.
I loved this game when it came out, because it was the first 2D Mario game in quite a while, um, and they brought some of the cool new 3D Mario moves back into 2D, um, like the triple jump, the wall jump, stuff like that, and it was like super fun to do that stuff in 2D. Gave them all new ways of designing levels. Um, And
Now, I guess I have a question for you. Are you one of those people who looks at all of the new Super Mario Brothers games as kind of being one and the same? Because a lot of people kind of
yes.
dismiss the other games as being,
Yeah.
more of this game, and I think this is the one game that is the most unique. Well, this and the Wii title are both very unique, and then everything else is derivative of these two.
Yeah,
Um,
so actually, I didn't play too much of them, to be honest. Like, uh, the Wii one, the Wii, Super Mario Bros. Wii, Super Mario Bros. U, and Super Luigi U. I think I only played a tiny bit of those games, if at all. But one really notable thing, um, about the Wii, new Super Mario Bros. Wii, is that they added that little midair spin thing that you could do, um, which I love. That it's like such a little thing, but it's just adding a little bit of hang time, a little bit extra control, and it lets you like reach all these new areas. You can like triple jump up to a wall and then wall jump and then do the little spin for hang time, and then like it's just like Mario's become quite the acrobatic since 1985.
The new
so
Super Mario
jumping
Brothers
back to,
titles,
I'm sorry.
they don't like they're not they don't innovate on each other the same way that that the original Super Mario Brothers titles did.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
I will say that new Super Mario Brothers Wii in particular, and I know yeah, I talked to Paige in the chat saying there were some issues with that. It worked better on the handheld, but new Super Mario Brothers Wii actually created co-op Mario or
Yeah.
competition to Mario that hadn't really ever existed before. Something that I'm sure you're about to get to in a bit. I don't want to say too much, but that's evolved very naturally, even into the Super Mario Maker game. So there's something to be said there that I would actually say that Super Mario Brothers Wii in particular is actually probably got the best staying power. And I've played all of them.
So, and I've only played 3 of them. I haven't played the 3DS title. But my understanding is that that one is more or less more of the same of what you've seen in past Mario games.
There's a
but
reason why it has the 2 after it. Let's put
yes,
it that way.
well, exactly. But
Mhm.
what I will say is some of the things that you were talking about before um, with 3D Mario specifically, the wall cling, the additional movement, the ground pound, the triple jump, that's all in the original New Super Mario Brothers on the DS.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah,
some of that
that's
interesting
right.
floatiness comes up in its power ups, which I think, with the exception of the Mega Mushroom, are not situational. We're back to a point of, these are generally good, useful, all the time kind of power ups. Um, the mini mushroom is an awesome speed tool because you can get good air. You bounce off of enemies and keep your momentum and jump really high when you do it. So you can almost fly and glide through levels. Um,
Yeah.
the blue shell is the same thing but on the ground. You become a wrecking ball that just goes through things. The fire flower is the fire flower. The only one that's really situational is the
Mega
mega
Mushroom.
mushroom, and it was really to show like, oh hey, look at all
Mm.
the cool pre-rendered sprite stretching that we can do with the DS. um and in that regard, it shows up like once or twice, and you can actually bring them to, because the game brings back the item slot from Super Mario World. You can bring them to wherever you want. You can bring them to the very last boss of the game if you want, and just drop a Mega Mushroom on yourself and kill Bowser by walking into him. And
You can
it's
do
a
that?
lot
I
of fun
didn't
to be
even
able.
consider
It's
that.
a lot of fun to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But New Super Mario Brothers Wii, of course, builds its levels and its gameplay off of the fact that you've got all these people on screen. What are you going to do with them all?
Yeah. And
So
actually, like, I
levels
mean,
have verticality.
yeah. Oh, oh man, you just reminded me. I forgot. I was going to mention that about Super Mario World. Actually, we're way past that now, but that was the first game where they had actually like vertically scrolling sections, unless you count Mario 2, which we're not counting.
Right. Well, and we'll get back to Mario 2 later because I do want to talk about it. I think there's one or two things worth noting
Sure.
about it. But
Sure. I mean, but because I'm looking at the history of sort of like Mario's core mechanics, that's kind of why I skipped over that one because it's
yep,
a little
totally
bit
makes
outside
sense.
that. But yeah, so the next one, after all the new Super Mario Bros. Games, we move on to 3D Land and 3D World, which are really, really great games.
I feel like 3D Land is so overlooked.
It is, yeah, it's a fantastic game.
I actually prefer it over 3D World.
Because I don't think that's the popular opinion.
No, it's absolutely not. But it has the thing that everybody always says that they like or liked the most about Sunshine, the floodless areas where you get the platforms floating in space. That is 3D Land in its entirety, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like somebody heard people raving about that part of Sunshine and said, "Oh, you want tight, Mario platforming on floating platforms in 3D space where you have 100% certainty as to where you will land if you jump in 3D space." That is Mario 3D Land in a nutshell. And I think like that's another great example of the controls and the hardware influencing the level design and the level design influencing the controls.
And those were some of my favorite parts of even going back to Super Mario 64, where the really abstract levels where there's just platforms floating in space. Because it always felt like this is like a challenge sort of play area where you just like see how fast and how efficiently you can get through this. So yeah, it's like you said, it's like they made an entire game out of that, which was really fun. But yeah, so speaking of Mario's moves, Mario's mechanics, they kind of combine the 2D and 3D styles into this one, but with like a bit of a pared down move set. He has no double or triple jump. They got rid of the punches and kicks. We're back to just jumping, and they brought back the long jump, baby.
And the long jump, and you can roll.
Did they have the roll in that one?
The roll is in that one, and it's not especially useful unless you've got a Tanuki leaf.
Okay.
Because the Tanuki leaf changes the roll into a tailspin.
Gotcha.
I think what's interesting about it though is that they took away all those mechanics and brought it back. They kind of rethought it back to the original Super Mario. You know, get to that fly, get to that end goal. You don't need to collect the stars. You don't need to do this. You have your power ups. You have your enemies. You have your blocks. But now we figured out how to do it in that third dimension.
Right? Yeah, I mean, and Miyamoto describes the game as what if we stretched Super Mario Brothers 1 along a 3D axis,
right?
What would it look like if we took 1-1 and stretched it along 3 dimensions?
Yeah, so. and it worked. Like every level's just like a platforming playground basically, and it's super fun.
Which they're less sandboxy like the previous entries, and
yeah,
I mean you can see where they were trying to get to from Galaxy, and I mean even going back to Sunshine from those special stages in Sunshine, they clearly saw like we can do something with this, and it just took whatever it is 4 iterations to get to that point where they really understood, oh, the platforming does work in 3D. We just need better indication as to where you are and making sure that the player feels that they have control.
A big reason that they could do that was because of the 3D effect of the screen. You could turn that on, the stereoscopic 3D, and they were actually able to put a lot of blocks back into 3D Mario because now you could actually see exactly where you are on that third dimension.
Yeah, Intoxication actually points something out in chat. He says the 8-way movement, everything in 3D Land and actually in 3D World as well.
It's locked to those 8 directions.
They're all done at 45-degree angles. So it's actually, I don't know how many of you in chat haven't played 3D World, but since that game comes out tomorrow, my advice to you is the game is always viewed at a 45-degree angle from how the stage is laid out, and you can only move in 8 directions. So don't play with the control sticks. Play with the D-pad.
I actually still like playing with the control sticks,
but I think people will find that they've got a lot more. I hate to use the word control. A lot more control. Yeah, a lot more control
Just go
of
with
their
it.
movements if they stick with those 8 directions. Um, it's just how the game works, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it makes for a better experience. You feel like you have a better understanding of where Mario will touch down when he finishes his jump. If
Yeah.
you are not worrying about like the control stick is like facing up and slightly to the left, where is that? How is that going to affect? Because even if you're doing that with the control stick, Mario still only has 8 directions.
Yeah.
So
It does let you control the speed more accurately though, right? Unless that's
yes,
digital as well. I
there
don't think it
because
is.
there's a run button.
Oh, is there? Man, I haven't even played the game in so long. I totally forgot
There's a
about
run
that.
button. We're back to having run button. And
Um, okay, almost at the end of the list here. So next we got 3D World, which is same thing, but they brought it to your TV screen on the Wii U. Fantastic game coming out tomorrow on
agreed.
the Switch. Pick it up. Um, which is basically they took 3D Land and they kind of blew things up a bit. So now you've got a balance of those like linear platforming sections and with some more open exploration areas. And most importantly, you can be a cat. And
I thought you were going to say, most importantly, Captain Toad, but sure.
Oh, I can't believe it took
no,
30
I'm just
years for
kidding.
Mario to become a cat. Huh. What were
Oh
they
shit,
thinking?
that's the game. That's the game I forgot to take off the shelf.
I loved those Captain Toad levels, and I was so excited when they made a full game out of it. I know K Burns does not agree with me on that, or I think I remember at the time that
It's just not
he said he didn't
my.
like them.
It's not that I don't like them. It's just that they don't do it for me.
Have,
But it's okay.
did you ever play the full release Captain Toad,
Yes.
Cabrins?
Yes.
I think he's cutting out there a little
Yeah, I
bit.
think he's cutting out. Because I played through all of Captain Toad and I loved that. But I understand it's not for everybody, but I think it fleshed out so much more of what that whole puzzle box platformer was capable of, and it does feel like a Mario game.
Yeah,
I haven't played Captain Toad.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thought you said-
Okay.
Here, let me try to wrap this up. We're getting close to 9:30 already, here, guys. So,
It's the most important part of Mario is the control.
yeah, well, we'll get there. But so the last one on my list here is, of course, Mario Odyssey. Man, like I'm just going through all these games. It's like just like 10 out of 10 after 10 out of 10 here.
It
But
really is.
yeah, finally we got Odyssey. They brought back the long jump in full 3D. They gave him the roll, which I did not remember, but you've reminded me was introduced in 3D Land, which is cool. But other than that, it's just like all the 3D mechanics that we've learned, like all the stuff from Mario 64. You've got the ground pound, triple jump, the backflip, like all that stuff is there. And they added even more with the Cappy, so you can instead of punching and kicking, which as we mentioned is kind of awkward in a 3D game, you can throw your cap to attack people and to capture, which is like gives you like an endless supply of novel power ups. You can capture all these different enemies, get their abilities. But not only that, you can use the cap for platforming. So you can throw it out. And it hangs in the air for a sec. You can bounce off of it, or you can throw it out and do a dive to get some extra distance in the air. And you can link together all kinds of crazy moves to get like all over the map in this game. And it's just like super fun and goes right back to that philosophy of these advanced mechanics are not required, but mastering them is rewarded with piles of coins, with one ups, like all kinds of stuff like that.
So two quick thoughts on that. And that Cappy is that persistent power up the same way that Flood is, but
Yeah, but a lot more
I,
subtle.
I would say a lot more subtle, and unlike Flood, feels like an extension of Mario's natural abilities.
Exactly. Which I think is what makes this game really great when we look at all the 3D Mario's, is that like it feels like a sequel to Super Mario 64. It's like here's where we started with 3D Mario, and here's the actual natural evolution of that. We'll take away all the like weird gimmicks or whatever. I mean, it is a gimmick, but it's a
But I
lot more
mean,
subtle.
I think the other thing to talk about is that it's a power up unless you play in 2-player mode, which I don't know if you've ever done, but if you've ever seen
I haven't
speedruns,
actually.
if you've ever seen speedruns of Mario Odyssey, there are all sorts of neat things that they do where one player will
Mhm.
play as Cappy, and the change in how Mario moves when Mario is controlling both himself and Cappy versus when somebody else is controlling Cappy. Cappy can be a makeshift platform whenever you
Yeah,
want. Cappy,
yeah.
like you want to climb a building without ever going some between,
Yeah,
with
all you need is a
having another
wall.
wall. All you need is a single wall, and Mega Man X style,
Yeah,
Mario can scale a wall in 2-player.
yeah.
And you want to leave Cappy behind and have Mario go off and do something, and then possess something with Cappy so that Mario zips back over to where Cappy was. You can do that in 2-player mode, and it totally changes how the pacing of that game works. Because Mario is this is a great quote from Intoxications. Mario uses Cappy, Flood uses Mario.
Yes,
It's pretty
that's
true.
very true.
So Cappy is simultaneously a player character and a power up. Flood is very much a power up.
Um, yeah, but that's where we end up. We've gone from 1985 to uh what is it
2021.
2018 2017
Something
when
like that.
Odyssey is 2017.
Odyssey
I think
came
you
out.
should talk briefly about Mario Maker 2, because there's one thing that this game does that um, iterates on some of the things we've talked about, which is the 3D world style of level design. Because 3D world is one of the themes that exists within Mario Maker 2, and it takes those elements that were three-dimensional, the climbing up elements of the stage, it turns those, we were talking about, the difference between like 2.5D and what's actually 2.5D, and the the elements that the 3D world theme adds are actually 2.5D, in that like you can place a tree and then climb up a tree. You can place fences in the background and climb up the fence in the background.
Hmm.
And that greatly changes how level design works, because you can say, oh, we're going to force a power up to be essential, not entirely situational, but like
Yeah,
you can
that's
say
right.
like you must play the entire set of stages as Cat Mario,
Yeah,
and Cat Mario becomes the new default Mario. And I think that can lead to some very interesting design in terms of levels and gameplay. And
I think that's something you'd never see in a core Mario game as well,
you
though.
probably not,
Yeah,
but for them to say like, you must play as this character to proceed, um,
yeah,
is a different look for Mario games.
yeah. It can be fun, but I think it's again, it's like it works because you know that like, oh, I'm playing a spin-off. Things are going to be wacky. Things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, I just want to tie it all up. Like, let's take a look. Uh, let's take a look at here's a list of things you can do in Super Mario Odyssey. Um, you can run, you can walk, you can jump on platforms, you can jump on enemies, you jump over obstacles, you jump to break blocks, you bounce on things, you can control Mario's inertia in midair, you can climb, you can swim, you can crouch. That's all the core gameplay of Super Mario Odyssey. And it's also the exact same stuff that I listed that is the core gameplay of the very first Mario platforming game,
Yep.
Super Mario Bros. On NES. And that's like, it's amazing how much they can really milk out of that that core gameplay. And next time
That's
you're
really
playing,
interesting. I've never considered that.
yeah, and next time you're playing a Mario game, like just pay attention to just like how much you're really doing. Like, when do I speed up? When do I slow down? When do I crouch to slide? Like, there's like the amount of control they're able to give you with those core actions is just incredible, and it's what makes Mario games so much fun.
Yeah.
And but are these mechanics what really makes a Mario game? I'm gonna throw that off to K Burns.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot, but the funny thing is, you only covered the platformers. ABC was
Mhm.
sitting there at the beginning, and how many games did you have on your desk?
I'm getting
45?
them. I'm getting them.
45 games? I mean, I've got 20 something sitting next to me. I mean, Mario is a lot more than running and jumping. We've seen that.
Yeah, sometimes he's Mario painting. It's very important. Very important.
We'll get to it. You know, Mario is, I think I said it right. People who don't know games know who Mario is. He's as recognizable in the world today as Mickey Mouse. And I don't think that there's another video game character who even comes close. Maybe Sonic the Hedgehog
Pac-Man.
gets close.
Pac-Man.
No, I don't even believe that Pac-Man does.
No,
because
I think
and I'll tell you
that
why.
He's
though.
the next closest, though.
I don't believe so, because Pac-Man was sure in the 1970s, 80s, whatever. But today, kids today, no. But Mario, yeah.
Whoa. Pac-Man had that cartoon that it aired like 5 years ago.
Pac-Man's another topic.
Pac-Man and the whatever it was ghosts.
Mario is the face of video games, the way that Mickey Mouse is the face of Disney, that Bugs Bunny is the cartoon of cartoons and things like that. So naturally Nintendo has milked everything they possibly can out of this franchise. And we mentioned Yoshi had his own games from
I didn't grab those,
but we have characters like Wario who have created his own spin-off titles. Even Princess Peach has had her own titles that she has started. I'm not going to cover all those because Mario himself has branched out into every possible genre you can imagine.
Why don't you name some of those?
Well, no, we're gonna move through.
Okay.
So, start obviously. We've brought it up already. It's Mario Kart. There are. I'm gonna say 8.5 Mario Kart titles. Home titles. And I say 8.5 because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is. It's really just the same title as on Wii U. Do I have it on both consoles? Yes. Am I ashamed of this fact? No, but I do, and there are a couple of Mario Kart arcade titles. Either way, people who don't like playing video games like playing Mario Kart, right? So, there's racing, right there. Mario is not just a plumber and a jumper; he's a kart racer. You can point out different Mario Kart. You can say these ones are good, these ones are bad, but at the end of the day, they all are very accessible. People who don't generally play a lot of games can have fun. They're a great party game, a great couch game to play. If we ever get back to being in a situation where we can sit on the couch, with each other again, Mario Kart's the perfect game to play.
Yep.
And there's other kart racers out. Crash Team Racing, Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. There's a Diddy Kong Racing,
Beetle Adventure Racing,
Banjo Pilot. I think there's a Garfield kart racer. There's a Nickelodeon kart racer.
Yeah.
Do any of these really matter?
And we actually talked about the kart racer when we were during the technology episode, right? Because we talked about how Mode 7 made that initial title possible. And without Mario Kart, there wouldn't be that genre. They would all be arcade racers.
Yeah, and I really don't think that any of those games have had the staying power that Mario Kart has. Some of them have had multiple titles, like Crash Bandicoot. You've had CTR, Crash Nitro, Fueled Racing, whatever they're called, and they remastered the original Crash Team Racing. But sorry, Mario Kart, they do it right, and I don't know if it's because the games are well made or because it's Mario. And there's something to think about. Would it really work as well
so
if it was the same game with other characters?
I would argue that there are Mario Kart games that people do look less favorably upon, that we can say that it's not just because they're Mario. There is a natural flow to them, the same way that there's a natural flow to Mario platformers, that people find fun, that people find addictive, that feels better than other racing games. But clearly that's not something that's built into the games, because otherwise everyone would be saying that Mario Kart Super Circuit is better than Crash Team Racing.
I'm actually going to
And-
argue that point and say it is built into the games. Now, arguably, Super Circuit's not a great game, but put that aside, Mario Kart actually follows the same formula that Mario does in terms of accessibility. Frostbite really well pointed out that Mario teaches you how to play as it goes. The 1-1 really does teach you the mechanics of Mario. Let's take Mario Kart 64, which is my favorite. Luigi's Raceway is that first race in the Mushroom Circuit, in the Mushroom Cup. It's a very simple track. There's not a lot of obstacles. There's no jumps. There's no cars coming at you and knocking the 5-year-olds out of the way. It's it's a very simple loop track. It's the very first track in the game. But then you go through, or jumps and things like Wario Stadium. You have the cars and trucks and Toad's Turnpike. Rainbow Road is, Mario Kart 64 is the easiest Rainbow Road, but in other Mario Kart games, those tracks are very difficult, right? And I would argue that the reason that it works so well is because it, just like Super Mario Brothers, teaches you how to play as you go. And something I was actually I was going back and looking at them earlier today, the different Mario Kart. They all sort of follow that pattern. The mushroom cups are easy, the special cups are hard, and they do it on purpose.
I would say the one exception to that rule is the original Super Mario Kart, which is much more difficult to game right up front, and on top of that, does not teach you basic elements of the game. That was of an era, though, where if you didn't read the instruction manual that came with the game, you were missing out on things like, hey, coins actually increase your top speed, right? Like, which nowadays I think people understand that a little bit more inherently, because when they were reintroduced with Super Circuit, oddly enough, that was something that the game actually teaches you. But
moving on from Mario Kart, I could talk 2 hours on merits of Mario Kart, but I got a lot to cover, not a lot of time. So,
I'm sorry I talked so long about jumping and running.
No, it's good. It's good.
The most important stuff from Mario. I'm gonna come back. I'm not gonna move chronologically here. We're gonna jump around a little bit, and I'm doing it on purpose. So, just hold your thoughts. I know we mentioned Mario Paint. We're coming to it. Next, I want to talk about Mario Party. Because and there's a lot of those, and some of them are better than others. We were just discussing right before this, before the show, about which ones we didn't like and why people like or don't like certain others. But Nintendo once again takes their mascot again. This game would not work with other characters. They've tried. Fortune Street, which does have Mario in it.
Well,
we actually Crash Bash.
Well, hold on a second. Fortune Street isn't Nintendo.
I didn't say it wasn't Nintendo. I'm saying other franchises have tried to capture this magic. I'm saying it doesn't work because it's not Mario. There is something to be said that the couch co-op with Mario as recognizable characters is accessible to people who don't play video games. And that's going to be the trend I'm working on here on these first couple titles, right?
I think there's something to that.
My wife, who really doesn't love gaming at all, really can play Mario Kart and Mario Party without even thinking about it. And she doesn't have to be good at them because they're fun. It's fun to sit on the couch and laugh about being terrible at the game. And I'm Mario Party. Some of them really aren't that good, but even the ones that aren't that good are still fun to play with other people.
K Burns, so I would just like to call out Intoxications, who asked, "Is Sonic Shuffle a joke to you?" To which I say, yes, I was actually going to make a Sonic Shuffle joke, but it's too late for that now.
Yes, but the answer is yes, it is.
Oh, okay, wait. This is interesting. So he also pointed out that Shrek Super Party was actually a really good party game, but that maybe only reinforces your point that the recognizable characters are a factor in that.
And Crash Bandicoot tried as well with Crash Bash, and that game is, well, developer aside, not a great party game. It effectively said, "Oh, people love the minigame aspect of Mario Party," and made a game that's all minigames, and it just does not hold up.
And Nintendo did the same thing a few years ago. Mario Party, they brought back all their best minigames and just packaged them in a title.
Yep. Also, to my knowledge, did not hold up all that well.
No, it didn't because they lost that party aspect. Mario, the party aspect, it works. Another thing that like I think the trend I'm getting on here is how accessible Mario actually makes gaming in certain aspects. So the next logical thing to talk here is sports. I think I think that ABC for sure. I think all of us are not huge on sports titles. It's just they're not average enough for us. But there are people who game purely to play FIFA, Madden, NBA, NHL. These are things that people really like, and that's
I have far more Mario sports games than I thought I ever would.
I
own doubles of some of these games.
I see nothing wrong. Now, I don't want to get in. I don't want to talk about the global ports of some of these titles yet.
Okay.
Yet, but sports aspects alone. I'm not gonna lie. I learned the rules of golf from Mario Golf. I am not ashamed of this fact. I absolutely did.
I absolutely did too.
And again, I know people who don't like playing games, but really like playing Mario Tennis. It's easy, it's accessible, and everyone recognizes Mario.
I loved Power Tennis on GameCube.
I would argue Power Tennis is the best Mario Tennis. There's some debate, but I think it's good.
I would argue in favor of the N64 game, but I wanted to quickly interrupt by asking, are you guys more Mario Tennis people or Mario Golf people?
I'm more Mario Tennis, but I'm
tennis.
So I'm more of a Mario Golf kind of person, and I've actually bought, I think, all but one of the Mario Golf games, and for whatever reason, I don't have any interest in, like, I played Golf Story, and that's like the only reason I played it is because it feels like a spiritual successor to Mario Golf. But any other golf game I've ever played, I instantly lose focus on it. I'm like, it's not. Yeah, and I would say it's because of the Mario characters.
Exactly, but it's not the sports
if you've played the N64 title, then most of the Mario characters aren't unlocked at the beginning of that game.
They're not unlocked in the single player, but you can use them all in the multiplayer.
Okay, fair enough.
So well, not all of them. You can use most in the multiplayer. You can't. I think Donkey Kong and Bowser are locked, but regardless, it's exactly what I said. Is that you slap the mascot. It sells, and it sells well, and it's fun. I could play Mario Golf or Mario Tennis a lot, but throw PGA Tour in front of me, I'm like, why? And I've tried. So it's made a different genre accessible to people that might not normally play that.
Yep.
I can go deep into that, but let's pivot a little way. And while we're on the topic of sports games, as I just mentioned, I'm just going to talk about in a minute, the mobile ports, they introduce these RPG elements. Now, for those who don't know, the Mario Tennis and Mario Golf ports on Game Boy Color, full-blown RPG games, and Mario's not even in them much.
He's the final boss.
Which is you can arguably say that they don't work as well as a result. Certainly not as popular. That doesn't mean they're not good. They're just not as popular.
I have a very soft spot for them,
right.
But it's in part due to who the developer is.
Right. But that's potential to Mario here. What I want to get to is that we talked about Mario's kart racer. Mario is a party animal. Mario is an avid athlete, but Mario is also a central character to your role-playing adventure.
Oh boy, is he!
So he might not be.
I have a stack of those too.
He might not be the lead character in in Mario Golf and Mario Tennis on Game Boy Color, but we have Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. We have Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door, Paper Mario Sticker Star, Paper Mario Color Splash, Paper Mario Origami King. We have
Super Paper Mario.
Sort of an RPG, but I guess it counts here.
It's a platformer RPG.
Yeah. We have Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, Mario and Luigi Dream Team. That's what it's called, I believe.
Yep.
And Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. That was 12 different Mario RPG titles. I don't think I missed
one.
So
what about Superstar Saga and Bowser's Minions or whatever?
And they also remade Bowser's Inside Story. I'll let you cover.
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll get back to the remix. It's okay.
The most interesting thing here is that Frostbite was talking about all this mechanic. Mario jumps on enemies, he hits blocks, he he wall jumps, he whatever. It's interesting actually, and I want to talk about how that Nintendo managed to adapt. Not just Nintendo, I should say that Nintendo's not the sole developer on a lot of these, but they adapted these mechanics to a role playing, even in Paper Mario, where he's flat in a 3D world. I don't want to get too into the the crazy alternate reality that is Paper Mario here, but it's so interesting that we can take these mechanics and create a totally different experience using the same bases. You know, a lot of people point to Super Mario RPG Super. It's like this high point. I would actually argue it's one of my least favorites, but
It has not aged well.
no,
Thousand Year Door.
I agree.
That's
Thousand Year Door. This is my favorite.
Sorry if I'm stealing your point there.
Which one?
Thousand Year Door. You missed it already.
Oh, sorry. But I just put them away. I mean, for me, the high point is Superstar Saga, but that's
another great one. Yeah,
I think they understood that different team, but Alpha Dream was mostly comprised of the old Square Enix staff who worked on Mario RPG. They understood that the writing was only one part of the game, but that the writing still had to be good.
The writing was so good in Superstar Saga.
Really is.
And so the writing is a high point in that game, but just as much they understood that the Mario elements needed to shine through. And so even though it's a game that takes place outside of the standard Mario world, like everything feels familiar yet different. The platforming is built kind of caked into the world design in such a way that the RPG elements feel fun like a Mario game does, right? Everything is based around the fun that comes with the Mario brand.
Yes, and my point, all of that, and really building on that point, is that you look at this game. Mario RPG is the one I'm going to really here, because I agree, it's not aged well. It's not my favorite. I've only finished it once, and I've tried it multiple times beyond that, but you can really sense that shared DNA from the platformers, right? Super Mario RPG followed Super Mario World, right? Super Mario 64 came out really months later, I think. Like it wasn't been like a full year at this point. I'd have to look at the release dates again. But you have these you look at that game, and if I were to take Mario out of that game and let's say put in Final Fantasy characters because Square made this game, it doesn't feel right. It's Mario. It's got Mario injected right through, or the not just the characters, not just the world, but the way that you platform around the map, right? In Mario RPG, you're still jumping up and down things, right? You're still hitting blocks to find your enemies. You're not finding them in chests the same way, although there are chests too. But it's very Mario at its core. Paper Mario too, and it's there's platforming elements. There's there's a whole Mario world based around here that just makes it feel like more of a Mario game. When I was a kid, and I had one more point. I had a lot of trouble playing RPG games. Couldn't get into them for the longest time. But Mario RPG games, not a problem.
There's really also I'm just realizing as you're naming all of these things, like in addition to the characters and like those core mechanics that they sometimes they bring in inject into some of these other genres, there's just this like level of, you could call it whimsy, that is prevalent in everything that Mario is in pretty much. And I think that's like a really important part of it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are all the things that I'm going to argue work. Okay. Look, we said there's high points, there's low points, right? Like, Mario Party 9 and 10, not the best. Mario Kart Super Circuit, kind of a letdown. But they all work on a high level. Mario Kart works, Mario Party works, Mario RPG works. But I also made the point right at the beginning here that Mario is basically the Mickey Mouse of video games. Or it definitely the Mickey Mouse of Nintendo. And Nintendo is not shy to slap his face on everything and anything they can think of. And this was really true at the height of Mario's popularity. We're going to go back to the eras of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show and
and cereal system and
all the McDonald's toys.
The McDonald's toys, although those still But when Mario was really at the height of popularity, you have to remember, I mean, I was young at this point, right? Late 80s, early 90s. We had two big video game giants. There was really Mario versus Sonic, but Mario really was that face, and so he popped up everywhere. So we have things, people forget that, Mario really wasn't just on Nintendo consoles. Did you guys know Mario teaches typing? you know, eh,
A game so good, it got a sequel.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a PC game.
PC.
Mario popped up in the worst places. Mario teaches geography, and Mario is Missing, which is technically a Luigi title, but I digress. And Mario's Time Machine, was history based, if I recall correctly, right?
Yep.
These games were actually aimed at educational things.
The Mario early years
The
series,
Mario,
which was
teaching little kids.
Yep.
And
incidentally, the first use of Charles Martinet as Mario's voice.
Oh, really?
That's a trivia bit for you there.
You can listen to him play Go Fish with you, and it like, go fish. Guess Mario has to go fishing.
This is the podcast where ABC decides to do Mario voice. Let's just keep that, preserve that in the history books here.
Oh no, please don't.
Mario will teach it to you in history
clip it.
in Mario's Time Machine 2. I was thinking about these games though, and my first bit was, okay, these don't work. They're not Mario. I looked back on it, I'm like, you know what? I don't think they'd work unless they were Mario. I don't, a game like Mario is Missing, where it's geography based, right? You're traveling the world. There's like a world map in that game. I've played it. I would give any care in the world about this game if it wasn't Mario. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about it if it wasn't Mario. And that says so much more than I realized. And I was fully prepared to come here and talk about how these games are stupid, how they overused Mario. And then I realized I'm probably too young for it, but I bet you they really taught some geography because of Mario. They really taught some history, and I bet you somebody learned to type because Mario teaches typing. And
now, Frostbite, I believe you mentioned to us ahead of time that you actually own Mario's Time Machine, or
yeah, I have
Mario's
the Super
Missing.
Nintendo cartridge.
Yeah,
for Time Machine.
So I have experience with both Time Machine and Mario's Missing, and I can tell you that as a kid, I absolutely was totally into those games, even though I knew that they were edutainment. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you would have learned a damn thing or even wanted to play them if Mario wasn't there?
That's
I don't think I would have.
tricky question. I don't know that I was necessarily as selective with the types of games that I play back then. I mean, we're talking about the 90s, so at most I could have been 8, right? But like at the time, I would be like, oh, neat, a Super Nintendo game with Mario other than the ones that I've already played. Let's give this a shot.
But that's my point.
At the same time, I was also pulling out, Cool Spot or something like that and being like, oh, sure, this game looks interesting.
But it wasn't
not knowing better.
But it wasn't just for you, right? Like, think, parents are looking for a new game to buy their kids for Christmas, and they go to the store, they see Mario,
Yeah.
It's an instant sell. And like I said, I was like, these games do not. I'm gonna be clear, they do not feel like Mario games. They don't.
Mario's presence in those games is almost exactly the same way that we were sold crap via product licenses, right? Here's the newest movie licensed game.
Yeah.
And only selling based on its brand recognition.
But what was very interesting is that this hadn't happened before in gaming, right? I'm talking about, how you can pair him to Mickey Mouse, right? You could sell a Mickey Mouse game, DuckTales and things like that, to Disney properties, and they sell Disney. Never had someone gaming, born out of gaming, that was selling games just because of the character.
I think Intoxicatious just clipped me doing the Mario voice.
I hope. And it's in the history books now. So like I said, I was fully prepared here. I have my notes, and I was
take that, Mario's Time Machine.
I was all ready to come in and talk about how much Mario, some Mario games just don't work. and then I realized I think they only work because they're Mario, and it was like a weird flip as I was looking. I don't think they aged well. I don't think that anyone cares much about Hotel Mario Day or or these things.
Except unless you're making YouTube poops.
Sure, uh, but I think it was very interesting to see what they've done, and Nintendo does it today still. Not as obvious, but I mentioned Fortune Street. Fortune Street on Mario's there, and would it work as well without him? I mean, the Dragon Quest parts in that game not as fun as the Mario parts. All right, there was a Dance Dance Revolution game with Mario in it.
Oh shit! I left that on the wall. I have that game.
There
Nice.
are,
I remember that.
yeah, and it's weird because I was saying, okay, what genres has Mario tackled? And then I thought about it. I'm like, what genres hasn't Mario tackled? And that became a harder question, a real harder question to ask. I would argue that even open world stuff with Mario Odyssey, it's not quite open world, but those games, Mario 64, Mario Odyssey, they're as open world as Mario is going to get. They're pretty close.
Mario's even tackled the first-person shooter,
and not just the
in Yoshi's Safari.
Yeah, and not just the first-person shooter. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to mention that.
So I'm saving this one, because this is much newer. Mario has tackled the XCOM format. And when they announced this game, I'm gonna take it back a couple years. They announced Mario Rabbids, and I was like, okay, no. I had no interest in this game. ABC and I were talking about this a few years ago. I'm like, no, I don't care about this. And admittingly, it came out, people were raving about it. I, for the longest time, was like, oh, it doesn't, no. And then it was on sale.
And you tried it.
It was on sale for like 75% off somewhere. It was like a weird flash sale. And I bought it. And I didn't finish it, but I was wrong.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty good.
It works.
It works.
It's one I don't own, but it works.
It works. Now, I know people really like XCOM. I've tried XCOM. It's not my thing. I've tried other turn-based strategy games. I've very, very, talked to both of you guys that it's taken me a long time to get any of them, including Fire Emblem. This one was immediately accessible. Didn't take any effort. It was just like, got it. It's Mario. I got it. Let's go. So, yeah. I mean, like, we in chat, just talking. Even covered Battle Royale. Super Mario Bros. 35 is a Battle Royale game.
Yeah.
It's going to disappear in 3 weeks.
I think in some ways, just kind of combining the two thoughts that you guys have had, Mario's based Mario games solely off of its brand recognition and sense of accessibility because it's Mario. Because not all Mario platformers even play like Mario games, or they don't play identically based on them. But your brain kind of kicks into like, it's Mario, so I get it, right?
And
like,
it kind of brings it all back around. At the end of the day, all those mechanics still are there. Somehow, Mario is still jumping on enemies. He's still hitting blocks. It might not be in every game, and it might not be every mechanic in every, but something's there. There is that shared DNA. It's injected straight through the franchises. They're all there, and you can look at all of them. You can find it.
It's also like, it's also the whimsy that I mentioned. They're all very whimsical games, and it's kind of this promise that this game's going to be easy to learn, but there's going to be a level of mastery that's completely optional, but it will be fun and rewarding if you get there.
100%. And I like I said, I wanted to talk about what didn't work, and it might not work for me all the time, but I think Nintendo knew what they were doing. I'll leave it there. I think Nintendo really knew what they were doing, even when I not convinced they had to do it. So I think that really leads right into what ABC really, really wants to get at here is,
okay, so the way that Mario has felt has evolved, and the way that that the brand recognition and player accessibility has evolved have kind of fused into one element as Nintendo has re-released or ported their games. And I think that that's no more apparent than with Mario. So just gonna throw out a few titles here, and I want you to try and find the commonality. Uh, so the first one is a remake of the original Mario Brothers on the Famicom Disk System called Kaitakita Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Game Boy Color, Mario 64 DS, Super Mario Brothers 3 on the Game Boy Advance, Super Mario Advance, the Super Mario All Stars collection. They all kind of have this one thing in common, in that they are remakes of Mario titles or ports of Mario titles that don't actually play with the same rules or physics necessarily that the original games did.
Hmm.
But our brains kind of look at them and go like, I've played a Mario game and I can look at this and see the Mario game that I think that it feels like, and we automatically play as if everything is normal. Every single version of Super Mario Brothers that has been released of the original Super Mario Brothers does not have the same physics.
It's like
The
Mario
NES,
gaslighting.
the NES version, the rules that are, or the physics in the Mario Maker series, Mario 35, the port on the Game Boy Color, they all play by different physics, very
Mhm.
slightly different physics. Things that we talked about with regards to, keeping momentum after you bounce off of an enemy, or holding the jump button when you jump off of an enemy to gain greater height. That's not in the original Mario Brothers, or not in the original Super Mario Brothers. That's something we all think is in there because it's in every other Super Mario Brothers game, and it's something that they added back into those remakes and ports, but it's not in the original games. The speed that Mario moves, the arc that he takes when he jumps, those are all different in every single game. But we look at it and go, I understand it's Mario, and I understand how Mario games work, and our brains fill in the rest. Um, Now, I think kind of the interesting part of that is that they've been able to take that and sell us games that are completely unnecessary. And I say that not as a dig against them necessarily, but kind of starting back at the first one that North Americans would have gotten is Super Mario All Stars, which is a ground up port or remake of Super Mario Brothers 1, Lost Levels, Super Mario 2 and 3 um, on Super Nintendo. They all contained enhanced graphics and better sound and save functionality, which none of the games previously had in North America. Um, and as I mentioned, different physics, but everyone looked at them as if they're one-to-one ports. Um, so this game would have come out pretty decently into the Super Nintendo's life cycle. Super Mario World had been out for a long time at that point because it was a launch title. Uh, Most people who were, or not most, but many people, especially in Japan, who were getting into Super Nintendo would have already owned a NES or Famicom, right? We discussed this previously, that 1 in 4 families in Japan owned a Famicom.
Hmm.
So these are probably games that people already owned. So what was the purpose of the remake? And it was, they were taking technologies and they were taking new physics engines and testing them with Mario, because they
Oh
knew
yeah.
people would figure them out using Mario. They knew that they could say like, okay, we're going to test a large cart that can contain multiple games, throw that at the wall, see if it sticks, see if it works, see if people get it. And worth noting that that game got 2 re-releases, or a remake and a re-release, because Super Mario All Stars got the Super Mario All Stars and Super Mario World
Yeah.
version, which did not come out in Japan, only in North America and Europe.
Oh man, you actually have it complete in box? That's crazy.
No, I reboxed all my systems with
Okay,
these
okay.
plastic cases. But that game it's the same four that are in the original cart plus Super Mario World.
Mhm.
It has an additional save file for Super Mario World. It has different sprites for Luigi, which I have read but have not been able to confirm anywhere that the reason that it didn't get released in Japan is because Miyamoto does not like the portrayal of Luigi in that game,
Weird.
in that version of the game. He does things like he slides down hills on his knees instead of on his butt. When he uses the fire flower, he coughs out fireballs. He doesn't use his hands to push them.
Just reason.
That's so weird.
When he jumps, he doesn't raise his fist in the air. He holds onto his suspenders, or his overalls.
Yeah.
He has all these unique moves. He doesn't play any differently. He just looks different. They gave him his own personality. He's not just green Mario sprite. And we're talking about a game that effectively was a pack-in title, right? Super Mario World was a pack-in title for a lot of Super Nintendo owners.
Yeah.
And Super Mario All-Stars, as I just mentioned, is a game that would have contained a lot of games that people already owned. So what was the purpose of this game? Right? Like, was it just like, oh, we're going to play around with getting people to rebuy a game? Or is it,
I mean, if they were Nintendo's capital, it worked because Nintendo's been
it
capitalizing on
worked.
that model forever.
But
Yeah.
then they, and we talked about the Mario anniversary previously, that the last Mario anniversary that they really celebrated on the Wii, they celebrated by re-releasing the Super Nintendo game just ported to a Wii disc. There's literally nothing special about it. It is the Super Nintendo game on a Wii disc.
Well, so I think like there's an argument to be made for that kind of thing. At least you could say, what's the purpose of that? It's for people who didn't get to experience it on the original console.
Okay,
But
I challenge that though, because all of those games were available on Wii Virtual Console.
Yeah. So the Super Mario All Stars was actually released for the 25th anniversary, just over 10 years ago. 2010, I believe.
Mhm.
So at that time, Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels were available on, as you can see, just sit on the Virtual Console. Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on Game Boy Color had been released, which contained the Lost Levels.
So hold on, gonna interrupt there. Every time that Super Mario Brothers 2, the Japanese version, was re-released, with the exception of Virtual Console versions, is not an incomplete. It's an incomplete game. It's missing the final worlds of the game.
Right, but for argument's sake, we'll say that it has seen it did see that extra release on Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, and Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 at this time had actually been remade for Game Boy Advance as Super Mario Brothers Advance 1 and 4. So by the time
I mentioned both of those, and we'll get to those two specifically. Actually, have value being on the platforms that they're on.
Yes. So
the other two Super Mario Advances do not.
Right. But I think the argument here is, why did they re-release this game? Because they wanted people to play it again? No, because it was a collector's item.
It was a collector's
item.
And we'll get back to that, because that's the mentality that happened with the recent Switch release of the 3D All Stars.
Mm-hmm.
But Super Mario Advance is a tech demo.
Yes.
Plain and simple. It does everything in its power to show that it's a tech demo. It has sound bites of the characters speaking, not present in any other Super Mario Advance game. They're in the first one because they wanted to show off what the sound chip was capable of. The game opens with the opening for Super Mario Brothers 2 USA, and then with the characters walking in from off screen. And then as they're walking, the screen fades and you can see the sides open up to expand to the full width of the Game Boy Advance screen. And you can see, oh, the Game Boy Advance is capable of displaying in widescreen. This is a technological innovation from the graphical side. There are giant enemies that weren't in the original game, and the giant enemies both can be stepped on and squished and stretched and tossed, and they spin in ways that they wouldn't have in the original game. And it's all a tech demo. And interestingly enough, Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Advance 4, which is Mario 3, is the same thing, but not for the Game Boy Advance itself, but for the e-reader. It's a tech demo for the e-reader, because the e-reader, and I actually have an e-reader and a stack of the cards.
Only person.
Yeah, I'm the only one you know who has one. Let you
at all.
let you add in levels and see speed runs of the game. It literally had speed run videos built into the game if you use the e-reader. It let you access power-ups that weren't normally in the game. It let you add components to the game that weren't normally in the game, because the whole thing was released to be like, hey, what if you could add to an existing game? Like, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be neat if we had this peripheral that you could pretty much build DLC into? And there were a few titles that used the e-reader like this, but Super Mario Advance 4 is an interesting one in that not only did it get this release on the Game Boy Advance that, obviously didn't work the way they wanted it to for the e-reader, but they re-released this one on the Wii Virtual Console with all of the e-reader content built in. So if you go by that game actually had something like 30 plus e-reader levels, and only 16 of them were released in North America. You could technically print off the e-reader codes for the Japanese cards and they will work, but the game could only store so many levels within it. When they made the port for the Wii U, they put in all of the levels. They expanded the memory of the game for the Wii U version of the Game Boy Advance version of the NES game. Like, thinking about the chain of that.
Yeah.
All just to be like, there was this piece of tech that we wanted to show off.
So you're saying they're kind of using Mario. They're using
they're using
games
Mario
that they know
as the brand recognition for tech.
Yeah. So they're using these games they know people love as a way to like put these new ideas in front of people and see what sticks, kind of.
And I think there's one more great example of that, which we briefly touched on, which is Mario 64 DS, which I know a lot of people don't love as a game, but it was a launch title for the system, and its job was to show people this system is capable of real three-dimensional gameplay
on a handheld,
on par with what you were seeing on consoles in the previous generation. And with or without a circle pad, this could be the future of handheld gaming. Now, of course, we look back at it and know that they didn't end up sticking with that as the primary design philosophy for the DS. It wasn't really until the 3DS that most games were three-dimensional rather than 2D. But that game features pretty much everything that I outlined in Super Mario Advance, plus all the stuff about 3D and all the stuff about texture mapping and three-dimensional graphics and polygons. And pretty much, if they weren't getting it to work already on Game Boy Advance, they had to show it in one game. Like, this is the reason to get into the DS.
It certainly accomplishes all that. I mean, I think the problem with Super Mario 64 DS is exactly what we said right when Frostbite was talking about it. The game would be so much better if you didn't have to hold the Y button to run.
Yeah, I mean, it. Here's the thing: is I happen to have a soft spot for it, but just because it was one of the first DS games that I spent a lot of time with. I probably fully finished Super Mario 64 DS before I ever finished the original N64 title, just because I found it to be more accessible. It was more alike the Mario games that I was familiar with.
It arguably is. It's just weird considering it came out almost 10 years later, and I think the original's aged better.
I always wondered if we were going to see the DS game reported during the 3DS era, because if you look at it compared to something like 3D Land, it is almost a one-to-one comparison in terms of like, well, if the level design better supported this control system, then 64 DS would actually be a really good game.
What you really need
and and you get to see that in 3D land, which is, oh hey, the game isn't really built for analog, even though there's an analog stick, it still has that 8 directional movement.
What you really need is the levels and characters from Super Mario 64 DS to be redone in the original 64 engine with the original momentum, original control, and it might be down there. It might be a hack out there that does it.
And I always felt that this game was a missed opportunity, because
but this game,
this game, the one I'm holding up, which is the Mario 3D All Stars, could have been an opportunity for Nintendo to say, we're going to take everything that worked in the original 64 and combine it with everything that worked in 64 DS, because there was a lot of added content in that game.
Sure.
I think they made the right choice by just re-releasing the original one, though. Honestly, I think that's what people wanted most of all.
Probably, but there was a lot of interesting content and expanded the game, and actually brought in concepts that were from later Mario Brothers games or 3D Mario games, and brought them back into 64. That they're locked to that one game.
3D All Stars.
Yep.
You're saying missed opportunity. Sure, we can argue that until blue, but it really kind of goes back to what we said. 10 years ago, they released Super Mario All Stars on the Wii. Why?
It's just a collector's piece.
And so, what is this real? What is 3D All Stars?
Yeah. So 3D All Stars is a collector's item, but actually, kind of diving back into something I was saying right at the beginning, is that there have been some of these re-releases or remakes or whatever you want to call them, ports, that have existed to bring later concepts into earlier games. And we talked about it with 64 DS, but the very first port that I mentioned, one you probably have never played, which is Kaita Kita Mario Brothers on the disk system, is a remake of the Mario Brothers arcade. And something that it added, among other things, is you have in-air movement taken straight out of Super Mario Brothers.
There you go.
And so that is Mario Brothers that plays like Super Mario Brothers. You know where that mechanic ended up? In the Mario Brothers ports that are in all of the Super Mario Advance games, as well as Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Mm-hmm.
Because that game, the original Mario Brothers or versus Mario Brothers, is in all 5 games on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right.
And you kind of see this as you look at each of the remakes, that they always, almost always, added something from later installments into.
They're like George Lucasing Mario games.
It's exactly what it is, and we eat it up because it's Star Wars or it's Mario, right? And so even the non Mario platforming games are like that, right? The Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story remakes both added these elements of minion control in their side modes, which, if I remember correctly, is actually technically from one of the later 3DS games. I think it might be from Dream Team, but I don't fully recall. It might be Paper Jam. Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS takes a lot of the improvements from Dark Moon on the 3DS, and in terms of control and things like that, and brings them back to the first game. This is pretty much consistent across every single remake remake, not port, that exists. So I think it really is banking on that design philosophy that Nintendo's had of like, okay, we took something that people are familiar with and people can instantly relate to, and we're going to tweak it just a little bit, and it will still be recognizable because it's Mario. And so people can feel comfortable enough to jump into a slightly tweaked thing. Getting into Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, well, you're looking at a quarter of the screen space. The game has such screen crunch that any level that involves jumping up onto pipes or jumping down off of pipes, you're making blind jumps. but it's Mario, and it has similar enough Mario physics, and they put in the ability to shift the screen left and right, which had been in Super Mario World.
Mhm.
And players kind of figured that out and were able to make the game work for them. Um, I, I think it's kind of a weird thing to look at where they're never one-to-one ports. And we talked about Super Mario Brothers 2, but not the Lost Levels, but the original, or the North American Mario 2. That game is another example of figuring out, what is the recognizable parts of Mario and getting people to instantly latch onto them. Because we talked about the game wasn't originally a Mario game, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Except that it was designed originally as, well, okay, so what if we had a multiplayer Mario game where instead of horizontal scrolling, we figured that out, we're going to have vertical scrolling. And they couldn't make the multiplayer gameplay fun. So they shelved the game. They shelved the prototype. And then I think it was Fuji TV or something like that comes along to Nintendo and says, we've got this festival coming up of programming on our television network, the Dream Factory, the Dream Festival. We want you to make a game. And they make Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, which when it eventually got ported to or brought to North America, was turned back into a Mario game.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of the familiar elements feel like they're there. So that even though, I don't know when you guys played Mario 2, for me, I didn't play Mario 2 until long after I played like Mario World and all of the other NES games. It felt like a Mario game, even though it's clearly not a Mario game.
Well, because this, I actually played it before I ever played Super Mario. I was really young. I had a cousin of mine owned the game, and I was over there and I played it. And as a 5-year-old or whatever I was, still felt like a Mario game.
Right. And it's not just the oh, I'm running around as Mario, because chances are if you were playing that game, you probably tried one of the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody feels like you run at a velocity that feels like Mario. You jump in a way that feels like Mario. Even though you can't squish enemies, throwing felt like a Mario game. Throwing felt like a Mario mechanic, even though it wasn't.
I don't know, man. I don't. I kind of don't agree. Like, maybe I was a lot younger when I played it, but it always to me just feels like it's not a Mario game. I gotta say,
It's certainly different. I mean, it's like it's easier to say it now, looking back and having now say that feels like Mario. It's been a Mario game for so long now, But the mechanics are very different. The very first thing we talked, Mario jumps on an enemy and squishes.
Yeah.
That does not happen
So
in Super Mario Brothers 2.
So just kind of as an odd thought, it's funny that the history of the Lost Levels is that it felt like a very un-Mario game. It felt very unplayer friendly. But the version of Doki Doki Panic that we eventually did get is also very unplayer friendly, because the original Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic has a save feature.
That's
Right?
funny.
Like, if you play Super Mario Brothers 2 on the NES, you are required to beat the game in one sitting,
Yeah.
which is how people were familiar with Mario here. But like, the game was far more player friendly in its original form. Whereas, I mean, obviously Mario Brothers 2 is not player friendly regardless of the form factor. But that game that became our Super Mario 2 was a more player friendly game, and for some reason I think that lack of save feature actually is one of the features that we look at as being Mario like. Oh yeah, it's a platformer where I just have to get to the end. Oh, I didn't do it this time, I'll turn off the system, I'll try again next time. However many worlds, it's not that long a game, I'll run and get back there quickly. There's warp zones, I'll figure it out. So I understand how you can feel that it's not a Mario game, but there's something that other platformers of the time miss that Doki Doki Panic does have that makes it feel very Mario. And I think slapping Mario's face on it made it even more recognizable as a gameplay from a gameplay style.
Mouse, I'm telling you.
It's exactly. But yeah, and there's been dozens of Mario remakes and re-releases, and they all kind of follow this theme of mix it up very slightly.
Yep, sure. I mean, I think really hit this point on the head. It doesn't really matter what it is, but if it's Mario, it feels like Mario somehow, some way. That DNA is there. And I mean that I didn't even realize that was the central thesis that we get.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I'm really curious. Feels like we're getting close to the end here, but I don't think we even really talked about, like, let's get a quick fire. What's your favorite Mario game from each of us? Mine's got to be Super Mario 64, I think.
Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario World.
Those are all great choices. Those might be my top.
Either of the two that you did.
Got a secondary one, so we're not just throwing out the obvious answers. What's your second favorite one?
Like a sleeper hit?
Yeah, sleeper. Sure, go with the sleeper hit.
Are we going with only platformers here, or
no? Any Mario game.
Okay, then Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Okay.
He stole mine. I was gonna say that. Yeah.
And ABC.
Okay. I guess the one game that I know it's not as good a game as I want it to be, but I really like the original Super Mario Land.
Oh,
we didn't even talk
on
about
Game Boy?
Not 6 golden coins.
So he's talking
the
about
original Super Mario Land,
where you save Princess Daisy.
Where you save Daisy, and you're working with a compressed Mario, and the worlds don't feel like Mario, and the gameplay doesn't feel quite like Mario, but everything just is like, yeah, it could be. It's enough. It's enough to create the illusion that we were all just talking about.
It almost feels like a 10-year-old created Super Mario Brothers in their basement with very limited capabilities.
Yeah,
that's Super Mario Land.
It's a different team that created it, right?
All right, I guess one last question. We talked about our favorites. We talked about second favorites. How about least?
Oh boy,
that's a harder one.
That is a hard one.
You got to think of it, because you got to think, okay, what did I play that really is my least favorite Mario game here, right? And
we're, when we say Mario, we're like excluding anything that's in the Donkey Kong vein or anything in the Yoshi vein.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like strictly like you play as Mario. Mario's in the title.
I would say so. That you can actually really point at and say that's a Mario, and I can say the only Mario game that I remember just turning off very fast, truly didn't get very far. It's funny, I just said Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Paper Mario Sticker Star. I bought it, I played an hour of it, and I turned it off and said, never again. Intoxication just mentioned Sunshine. I have my problems with Sunshine, but I still finished the game.
I 100%ed both of those games.
But Sticker Star?
Yeah.
Did not do it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the more modern Paper Mario games, except the latest one looks decent, but I haven't played it yet. But yeah, they're the Sticker Star, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but or was there another one?
Color Splash.
Color Splash, yeah.
All right.
They're pretty lackluster.
I'm gonna throw out a different title. Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
I finished. I didn't finish that one, but that's because the final boss of that game.
That game, its real problem is that it didn't live up to the hype. Because of the Mario and Luigi games that I've played all the way through Superstar Saga. I played all the way through Bowser's Inside Story. I played most of Dream Team, and I think I put it down only because I was distracted by other games at the time. But like, I got to the end of. I pushed myself to get to the end of Partners in Time, and Partners in Time. I don't know if either of you have played it, but you get to the end of that game and they pull out like a big super boss at the end of what you think is the final boss fight.
It's worse than a Final Fantasy boss. It's like 6 back-to-back bosses. I died once at that boss, and I said never again, and that was the end of it. Didn't finish.
Okay, so I was in a very similar situation. They get you to a point of no return. Just a very common anime or not anime, a very common
RPG.
JRPG trope. And you get to the point of no return, and Partners in Time is a very linear game compared to its predecessor, so there is no like free open world exploration. You kind of have to go back all the way back if you want to go find an earlier area to grind in. And I got to that final boss, realized I was massively underleveled. Like I beat what I thought was the final boss, and the super boss form came out, and I was like, oh, well, it just one-shot me. I guess that's the game. And I put it back in its case, and I put it up on the shelf.
Call it complete.
Well,
never again.
I've replayed Superstar Saga like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
because it's a fun game. Like it encourages you to try different things. It encourages you to explore. It encourages you to try and get different items out of enemies. The best way I could state it, I think, is like if Superstar Saga is like Chrono Trigger, it's like perfectly paced and has like the right amount of exploration and character leveling or whatever, and you only need to grind like once or twice. Then Partners in Time it's kind of like the Final Fantasy VI of the Super Nintendo, in that it's another probably competently put together game that just has some leveling issues, and unfortunately it locks you behind certain parts of the game, and so it's like, oh no, you came too far, you can't go back, you can't fix your mistakes, it's too late, so I guess you're stuck like this.
Difference being Final Fantasy VI, you're expected to grind. It's a Final Fantasy game. Not Paper Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
Yeah, doesn't feel right.
I had the same problem.
And it's worth remembering that when Mario and Luigi Partners in Time came out, it was the 5th JRPG game, right? Because Super Mario RPG had come out, 2 Paper Marios had come out, and Superstar Saga had come out. So it was just a mean title. It was the Mario 2, the Lost Levels of it was not a player friendly experience.
I think my biggest problem with that one is that it didn't feel that difficult until the end. There was no sense that you had to grind. There was no sense that you had to do better. It was literally a very boring kind of game throughout, and then at the very end, it just decides to take your ass down to the ground.
That game is the reason that I didn't buy any of the later Mario RPGs at launch.
But I will tell you, I still at least got to the end of that one. Sticker Star.
I got to the end of Sticker Star because I wanted to see if there was any redeeming it. And but I've played through a few games like that. I felt that way about Skyward Sword. I felt that way about Other M. Right?
Like, but we're talking
games
Mario,
that aren't
Sticker Star. Was there anything redeeming at the end?
The most redeeming part about Sticker Star is they understood that their writing could be funny.
If that's the most redeeming thing, I'm glad I didn't play anymore.
I mean, Sticker Star's biggest problem is that it's a game about battling where the game tells you not to battle.
Yeah.
Well, guys, speaking of getting to the end of things,
yeah,
I think it's about time for us to hit the end of this podcast.
Yeah,
agreed.
Definitely.
We could dive into any single one of these individual games over and over and over again for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
we just don't have the time, guys. So, I hope you have very much enjoyed our Super Mario retrospective and our way to celebrate the 35th anniversary. By all means, guys, fire off a chat, hit us up on Discord or in Twitter. Tell us your favorite Mario titles or your least favorite. If you want to go in there and rag on Super Mario Sunshine, I'll be right there with you. But
there's a clip somewhere of me failing the pachinko machine after making fun of K-Burnst.
There's a clip of me getting stuck in the pachinko machine on Super Mario 3D All Stars. It's that
there you go.
But guys, fantastic stuff today. We will be back next week on this channel podcast. We are going to be doing some Totally Average Gaming right here on the Totally Average Gamers. So definitely don't want to miss that.
It may or may not be related to tonight's podcast.
It might be Mario.
It might be
It might
Mario.
be Mario.
Might be Mario. Stay tuned to find out, guys. With that, we will leave you here. Have a great week, a great night, everybody. Please stay average.
Stay average.